G'day, everybody. Welcome to episode 65 of the Drew Pavlis Show. I'm sorry I missed the last 2 days. I had some university essays to finish. They're now finished. And today I'm going to be monitoring the situation. Very, very important thing right now to monitor the situation with Iran, Israel. I'll be monitoring it. Steve, good to see you. Thanks for joining, mate. Good to see everybody again. Let's see how many. I've posted the link. We've only got a couple people watching live on YouTube. If you're watching live on YouTube, please leave a like on the show. That's very important. It helps us reach more people. You can leave a like. Yes, absolutely. We'll be monitoring the situation today, guys. Now I'll put up my news feed. Hang on. Now this is Tehran Live. Tehran and Israel Live. Tom Klein. Hello, Tom. How you going? Good to see you. Ole, Drewvelos Pavlos gang. Yes, absolutely. Pat Mullen says Jew lover. I like the Jews. They're my friends. We like the Jews. Guys, if you're watching, remember to leave a like. Please leave a like on the live stream. Very important. Helps us reach more people. Tell me how the audio is. How's it going? Doggy being funny. Beautiful. Please leave a like, guys, if you're watching live on YouTube. Help us reach more people. Very appreciated if you can leave a like. Now, I'm going to get up. We'll discuss the situation. Very important. Are you monitoring U.S. Air Force mobilization right now? Yeah, absolutely. It appears that the U.S. Air Force is mobilizing right now, so it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be a very interesting day. We might actually find out in the hours ahead of us whether America is going to strike the Fordo nuclear plant. So it'll be very interesting. It could actually happen in the next few hours. There are reports that the U.S. has mobilized some B-2s, some stealth bombers, and they're flying over from America with a couple air refueling super tankers. Morrissey, thank you for reposting, man. I appreciate it. My bet is that the current B-2 movements are a drill. It could be. If it's true and the Jews will manage to destroy the facility or maybe even collapse Iran itself, I will kneel and repent and accept the idea that murdering everyone just works. Me not being in it was just due to me being a lib and not believing in a triumph for the will. Not wishing to be that guy, but the apparently common wisdom amongst much of the media think tank space that the IDF hasn't developed a solution for Fordo beyond B-2 Ma Big Bomb strikes me as ill-advised knowing recent Israeli action. Yeah, considering that what they did with the Hezbollah pager operation, it's hard to imagine that they don't have some kind of contingency for the Fordo nuclear plant that's buried in that mountain. This is a good one. Please acknowledge that the Serbs are putting us in concentration and rape camps. Bitch, shut your goofy ass up. Allahu Akbar beheads a Thai agricultural worker with a garden hoe. Yes, sir. Gaza is being genocide. Glory to Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Literally, that is literally Noam Chomsky right there. Literal Noam Chomsky. I'm going to get up the tweet that was talking about the mobilization. Hang on. So B-2 stealth bombers have reportedly taken off from Whiteman Air Force Base with support from 8 aerial refueling tankers. That was 5 hours ago. If they were to go straight to Iran, they'd be going in about 5 hours' time. So who knows? Maybe this stream will actually have the moment that America maybe takes out Fordo. We'll see what happens. The doggy's being very cute. There's a contingency, but they'd rather not use it because the B-2 is likely safer and more guaranteed result. Yeah, that's true. Guys, if you're watching live on YouTube, please leave a like. Very important for the Drew Pavlis Show. Help us reach more people. We've got 4 likes on the stream. That's a very low energy number, guys. We need to have a few more likes, please. A few more likes on the stream so that YouTube will recommend to more people. Saturday night is going out night, Drew. Probably explains not a lot of people. This is my version of fun, monitoring the situation. Everybody else can go to the clubs and enjoy the nightclubs. We're going to be monitoring the situation. We will be here. The Drew Pavlis Show will be monitoring the situation live. What's your stance on the Pahlavi restoration? I'm not a Pahlaviist. I'm not a Pahlaviist. I hope that Iran can have a democracy. I'm not a Pahlaviist. Do you think it's a drill, guys, or do you reckon they're going? B-2 stealth bombers taking off from Whiteman Air Force Base 5 hours ago. And if this is the real one, they will be over Iran in about 5 hours. And we might just see this happen live. Tom Klein says, Pahlavi should head an interim government and they should head for elections. Listen, if they help to democratize Iran as a sort of like constitutional monarchy for a few months, it could be one way. Again, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like. It'd be very appreciated. How many likes have we got on the stream? We've got 8 likes on the stream. Thank you, guys. Please leave a like. YouTube will recommend us to more people. Very important. Morrissey says, you have to agree it's a bit hypocritical of Israel to cry about bombed hospital and bombing guns. But listen, this is the difficulty. We know for certain that Hamas has built military infrastructure under some of these hospitals. Unfortunately, it's a very unfortunate thing. For example, we saw the tunnels that they built underneath the European hospital in south of Gaza. That was where the leader of Hamas was hiding out up until very recently when the new leader was killed. Oh, actually, yeah, that's a good idea. I should actually watch the Tucker Carlson Ted Cruz thing. I'm going to put that up actually. I'm gonna watch that live actually. Let's see that.
Senator, thank you very much for spending the time to have this conversation.
It's good to be with you.
So you've come out for regime change in Iran, as distinct just from taking out the nuclear sites. What does regime change look like in Iran?
Somebody else in charge.
How do you get there?
Look, that ultimately has to be a...
Lembros. Hello, Lembros. How you going? Josh says that video is torture. Yeah, it's pretty torturous, I think. But, it's interesting. We should watch it. We should watch it on the stream, I think. We've got 17 watching live on YouTube and 500 people who've tuned in on Twitter. Guys, if you're on Twitter, go to my YouTube. Leave a like on the video. It's very helpful. It helps us reach more people. The Drew Pavlis Show is rising, but I need your help. I need your help to make this a reality, my friends. It's a little bit sleepy, the stream on YouTube. I need your help to try reach high numbers, my friends. That's what we need.
Uprising from the people. And it's not a complicated question. Is America better off with a country that has a leader who hates us and wants to kill us, or to have a country with a leader who likes us and wants to be friends with us? And
definitely the latter is better.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so that's not a complicated statement. Look, I believe you look across the world when you have countries that have dictators that are viciously anti-America. Venezuela, Maduro hates us. Would we be better off with Maduro out of power? Absolutely. I want our enemies out of power.
Exactly as Tom Klein says, handling patients injured is not a legit target, even if it takes care of injured soldiers. Yeah, taking care of injured soldiers is not at all a military target. To become a valid target, the hospital has to be a base for active war operations. Unfortunately, Hamas actually uses hospitals as a base for active war operations. And that in itself is a war crime. Hamas commits war crimes by basing their military actions out of hospitals. That is actually a really bad war crime. Okay, let's watch it.
Power, and I want our friends in power.
I could not agree more. The question is, how do you get there?
Of course.
We've been trying to kill Maduro for quite some time. We have troops there.
I don't know that we've been trying to kill Maduro.
Yeah, we have. Oh. And I think you know that. And
I don't know that.
Okay.
Oh, super chat. Thank you so much, Kalkin. Kalkin, 1986, $10. Slava Ukraine. Slava Ukraina. Tucker's a Russian asset. Thank you so much for the super chat, bro. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you, man. I always appreciate the super chats. Thank you, my friends. It helps me a lot. Thank you.
As a statement of fact, we have. So
we do have massive sanctions. We try to pressure him out of office.
Yeah,
I'm not aware of that.
I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure coming from various parts of the U.S. government on that government, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Same, the country of our ancestors, Cuba, 1959, we've been working on that. Hasn't worked. So I think we both agree it's hard to do.
It absolutely is hard. And look, I think you're reasonable to ask, how do we produce that? And I think there's a distinction between what your objective is and the means to get it. There are all sorts of things I would say we would be better off. We'd be better off in China without Xi there. Should we invade China and topple Xi? Of course not.
I agree, Kalkin. I agree. Tuck is such a fucking scummy
Better off
guy.
no national debt.
There are lots of things,
Totally.
but it's good to say, all right, what are our objectives?
Right.
And so with the Ayatollah in Iran saying you're for regime change, I don't view as complicated. I mean,
I'm guessing, Drew, with your flat tone, the Blues didn't win. How did we go, actually? Listen, guys, I'm not the biggest rugby league guy. We beat them, actually. We beat them 26-24 in the State of Origin yesterday, I believe it was. Oh, no, 2-3 days ago. Good to know. Good to know.
the guy literally leads mobs chanting death to America. So that's not good.
Definitely not good. But the reason I think it's important to get a little more detailed about how that might happen is because there's military action in progress, which we're supporting. And the president has said clearly, including last night, that he's...
Quiet Steel says, Tucker's against war with Iran and you're for it. Dude, I'm for bombing the nuclear reactors. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And that is actually a pro-peace solution, because if you give Iran a nuclear bomb, the regime becomes invulnerable for the end of time. It's like North Korea. Like Kim Jong-un will be there forever because of because they have nuclear weapons. So this is why you can't allow the Iran regime to get nuclear bombs. This is a disgusting regime. It spent 50 years sowing chaos and terror across the Middle East. They killed 500,000 people in Syria. They arm Russia to kill Ukrainian civilians. They shoot schoolgirls in the head for protesting against the hijab. This is a disgusting regime. And if they get a nuclear bomb, they will be invulnerable forever. So sorry, of course I'm against them getting a nuclear bomb. They're part of the Russia-China-Iran axis, and we can stop one of the key axis members from getting a nuclear bomb. Of course I'm for it. As a right-of-center liberal, I am maddened by the left seeing Trump as a fascist when it's actually the Tucker faction who are fascists, but they cheer Tucker because he speaks tepidly against Trump. Tucker actually is full-blown fascist. Tucker is full-blown fascist, really clearly hates democracy, which is why he supports Russia. Drew, who is your least favorite country that we, Australia, are allies with? I'm not sure. That's a tough one, actually. Probably, I mean, my least favorite country that Australia is doing huge amounts of trade with, obviously, is the CCP. You know, they're our closest economic trading partner, and we work very closely with them economically, and I'm really against that. Ted Cruz hit from the Jan 6 right, when the Jan 6 right hit the Capitol building. That's true, actually. How did the war with Iraq end? Saddam Hussein was overthrown. It wasn't necessarily a good war, but Iraq today is better than where it was. Iraq today is literally better than where it was. That's not me. I don't think the war was a good idea in 2003. What I think is they should have taken out Saddam Hussein back in the early 90s during the first Gulf War. When they defeated him over the Kuwait matter, they should have gone through all the way to Baghdad and removed him. That would have prevented a lot of horror down the track. So, of course, the 2003 attack on Iran, obviously I'm against that. The war in the 90s, I think that was a justified conflict because they were defending Kuwait's existence. Yeah, exactly what Free October says. Not everything is the Iraq War. Holy shit, everyone is mindfucked from that. Yeah, dude, and I was 4 years old when the Iraq War happened, so I didn't get mindfucked from it. Unfortunately, if you were like 20 years old or 30 when the Iraq War happened, you just got mindfucked for it forever. And then you think, oh, wow, I have to support Russia and China and Iran because Iraq War. A lot of people got brainworms for this. It's the Noam Chomsky brainworms. It's a very sad thing. Very sad thing when you get the Noam Chomsky brainworms, my friends. It's a terrible thing when you get the brainworms. By the way, guys, leave a like on the YouTube stream. Leave a like on the YouTube stream. I think we've got 25 people watching live on YouTube right now. Please leave a like on the YouTube stream. It will help us reach more people. That way we can monitor the situation with more people.
Just focused on eliminating the capacity of the Iranian government to produce nuclear weapons.
What is your take on Indonesia and the occupation of West Papua? Listen, the Indonesians have been really brutal in West Papua.
Saying we need to use military force.
This situation is being monitored. Thank you, Drew. Yeah, thank you, Dan. No worries, my friend.
To affect regime change.
I have not said that.
Oh, I must have.
No, I have not said that once. Okay. I don't think we need to use military force to do.
Yeah, exactly. Saddam did have chemical weapons, and he used them on his own people, and he used them on the Kurds, and it was genocidal.
Regime change. I said I support it. I would like to see it happen. You asked me how should it happen? A popular uprising.
Yeah, Australia does have very close relations with Indonesia. Nobody says anything about it. This is true. When you're asking what is my least favorite country we have a military sort of alliance with, is probably would have to be Indonesia. That said, though, it's very difficult because I understand that we can't completely break ties with Indonesia because we have to have good relationship with them. We have to have a good relationship with them because they basically guard the northern approaches to Australia, and we can't really afford to have a hostile relationship with Indonesia because it is obviously the closest country to us with hundreds of millions of people. Hello, Matt. Yeah, good to see you again, Max. Good to see you again, Max. SSWB says, Westside Tyler falsely accused me of sexual harassment on one of his streams. Who's Westside Tyler?
So what I've advocated for, all right, let's step back a second. You and I, we've known each other a long time. I would say we agree on about 80% of the things on Earth.
For sure.
And there are a lot of things, and we can get into the nitty-gritty foreign policy as much as you want. There are a lot of things on which you and I agree, not just a little bit, but violently.
I totally agree. I was rooting for you in your last campaign, for sure.
Well, thank you. Look, you have been heroic on the border. You've been one of the clear.
Indonesia said it wishes to normalize relations with Israel, by the way, which is interesting. I didn't see that. That's interesting. That is interesting, actually. Free Iran. I agree with you. I agree, Benny.
Clearest and best voices in the whole country on securing the border and on the absolute crisis we're facing. And in Texas, I see it and live it every day. In COVID, in fact, you may recall in the middle of the COVID lockdown, I was out walking my dog when the whole world was shut down and we were living in lunatic times. And I called you and said, Tucker, your nightly monologues are the single best thing on television. Like I watch them like an injection of crack. Okay, I'm mixing my metaphor because you don't inject crack, but you get what I'm trying. No, I mean, you were standing up and speaking like, what the hell are we doing in a way that we desperately, desperately needed. And so whether it's securing the border, whether it's the insanity of COVID lockdown.
Yeah, Tucker's laugh is so schizo. Tucker's schizo laugh. The schizo laugh that Tucker does is a sign when he's been exposed. When he's been exposed, he does his schizo laugh. Like, it's really fucking spooky. Sounds like the fucking Joker.
Sounds in the back.
It's really high-pitched and fucked up.
Vaccine mandates, whether it is the Second Amendment or the First Amendment, you and I agree on a ton of stuff.
He was on one of Noel's streams, clout chasing. Then Bad and Penard found out he was in the military. Then he got cancelled. So this guy was like a lefty tanky who was in the military. Beautiful.
The 20% where we disagree, I do think is meaningful. And it's mostly in the foreign policy space. And what I would say, if you'll allow me to get a little theoretical, and then I'm happy to get specific.
Yeah.
For a long time, people have perceived two different poles of Republican foreign policy. There have been interventionists, and those have been people like John McCain and Lindsey Graham, George W. Bush. And there have been isolationists. And then the most prominent of those have been Ron Paul and Rand Paul, and there are others. And people perceive those are the two choices. You got to be one or the other. I've always thought both were wrong. I don't agree with either one. The way I view my own foreign policy.
I'm with you, by the way, for whatever it's worth. I agree with you.
Okay, good.
I don't know who set up that binary, but there are lots of choices, actually.
I mean, people sort of naturally fall into, I think they want to classify people, and they're like, okay, you're one or the other, and you got to be all or nothing. And the interventionists, it seems, have never seen a country they didn't want to invade, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And the isolationists, I think, don't take the threats to America seriously, and I think that's naive and it doesn't work. And so my view, I consider myself a third point on the triangle. And what I describe that as is that I am a non-interventionist hawk, which sounds a little weird, but what do I mean by that? I mean the central touch point for U.S. foreign policy and for any question of military intervention should be the vital national security interest of the United States. How does this make America safer? How does this protect Americans? If it does, we should be strong. And actually, another way of conceiving what I'm saying, I'm speaking theoretically, but Reagan referred to it as peace through strength. And actually, I think Donald Trump's foreign policy is very much what I'm describing, a non-interventionist hawk, where he understands, and I think this is historically true.
Max Super says that Ted Cruz is literally the dumbest motherfucker in the Congress. That's wrong. It's MTG. It's Marjorie Taylor Greene.
The best way to avoid war is being strong. That weakness and isolationism, I think, encourages war. So going back to regime change, where you started in Iran.
I don't think I disagree with anything you've said. So we may not be that far apart, really, because you said that the single criterion for making decisions about America's foreign policy is America's national interest.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is also America first. That's another way of putting that as well.
That's the definition of it.
Yeah.
It's hardly breaking news. The U.S. dollar has been gravely devalued by Washington.
I love the Tucker ads. They're always for schizo gold currency and stuff like that.
Into money printing. You print money out of thin air, and the currency becomes weaker. You can governments results. I trust tax advantage freedom.
The question is, are we watching that now?
So I think we are. And from what you've said publicly, I think on Iran in particular, you and I disagree. And all right, let me contrast it when Obama was president. When Obama was president, you remember he talked about wanting to have military action against Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I tried to keep an open mind to it. I said, okay, let me listen to the commander-in-chief, describe to me how this is in America's interest and what your plan is. And Bashar Assad was a bad guy. He was killing his own citizens, and he had chemical weapons that were very dangerous. I could conceive of it.
I agree with Tom Klein. Isolationism creates a vacuum which leaves the space for Nazis or CCP or Russia to take it over. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly why I oppose it.
Commander-in-chief laying out a plan for, okay, we're going to go in and say, grab the chemical weapons and leave. Like, I could see that if there was a real threat to America and there was a plan to prevent that, I could see supporting that. So I wanted to hear what he had to say. And I listened both in classified briefings and public questioning. And number one, their public defense of it was incoherent. So John Kerry said, we're going to engage in an unbelievably small strike. I think that's a quote. I'm like, okay, and to do what? At the time, there were 9 major rebel Islamic groups in Syria. I'm like, okay, I agree, Bashar Assad's a bad guy. You topple him. And one of the 9 other groups takes over. 7 of them were affiliated with radical Islamic terrorism. You had Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra. I'm like, wait, how is it better to have lunatics who hate us in charge? Assad's a bad guy, but I don't want worse guys in charge. Obama administration couldn't give an answer to that. And ultimately, when you press them, John Kerry in particular, I pressed, and he would say, well, we need to defend international norms. What the hell's an international norm? I don't know what it is, but I'm not interested in putting U.S. servicemen and women in harm's way to defend one.
Amen.
So I opposed the Syria attack and opposed it vocally. And it was interesting. Rand and I agreed. Rand's a friend of mine, but we agreed with that position for different reasons. What I was asking is I think the question we should ask, how does this make America safer? The Obama administration couldn't give me an answer, so I opposed it. I think Iran is very different.
Let me ask what you think of how Syria wound up, because Bashar al-Assad now lives in Moscow.
Yeah.
He was taken out by our allies, and he's been replaced by a radical Islamist who was affiliated with ISIS. So is that a win or no?
Unclear. Look, Syria's a mess, so I've consistently opposed.
So we had a secular leader in a religious and ethnically diverse country. Now,
I hate how Tucker goes, oh, we've got Assad was just this nice secular leader. Like, this was an absolute psychopath who killed 500,000 people, carried out some of the worst atrocities of the past century, had an underground rape and torture dungeon where he literally executed hundreds of thousands of people. Like, just literally one of the most evil regimes in history. And it's like, oh, it was secular. Tucker is really, he sees like evil dictatorships and he just, for some reason, loves to suck them off. Really loves to suck them off. It's very strange. Very, very strange, actually.
now we have a religious extremist, Islamic religious extremist, who's overseeing the purge of Christians and Alawites. Is that better? That doesn't seem
well,
like a win.
One of the things you said is he was taken out by our allies. I don't think that's right. Israel didn't take Assad out.
And he was taken out by our allies, as in taken to Russia. Is he inferring that Russia's an ally? No, I think what he meant is that I think he was basically trying to say that Israel overthrew Assad, which is just like bullshit. Because if you actually look at the Israeli government position, they wanted to keep Assad there because they were scared that the alternative to Assad would be jihadists. And I actually think that's a really immoral thing that Israel wanted to keep Assad there, because Assad was a total evil person, killed so many people. So actually, if anything, I actually think the Israeli government position, which was to keep Assad, was the immoral position. Thanks, Steve, for tuning in. I appreciate it, man. Always good to see you in the chat. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it, man. If the new Syrian government was so radical Islamist, why is there a female minister that's Christian? That's a good point.
What happened, and I'll tell you.
What about Turkey?
Turkey didn't take him out. So it was interesting. I had a long.
How did Assad get kicked out?
Yeah. When Netanyahu was in D.C. a couple of months ago, he and I sat down for a couple of hours. He's a good friend of mine. And we talked actually about Syria. He made an interesting point that I've not heard anywhere else, in that he said he believes what toppled Assad was when Israel took out Nasrallah. Nasrallah was the head of Hezbollah. They took him out. And it was actually fascinating how
it actually was Israel taking out Hezbollah that toppled Assad. That was a huge thing. They knocked out a massive plank of regime support. Honestly, good on them for that.
Charismatic leader. And Bibi said, look, Nasrallah was a very effective terrorist leader. And when they took him out, that power base was supporting Assad. And that ultimately, in Bibi's analysis, removed the support from Assad and toppled him. But they weren't trying to take out Assad. My view now, I don't know.
So you don't think that, and I don't, it is very confusing, and I don't know that anyone really knows all the details, but you don't think that Israel or Turkey or NATO ally Turkey played any role in toppling Assad?
I don't know. I don't know that they did. Look, my understanding of that, they clearly took out Nasrallah and Hezbollah. They've decimated Hezbollah, but Hezbollah was waging war on them. So decimating Hezbollah was very good for Israel and very good for America, too. I mean, Hezbollah hated us. I would put Assad in the category of an unintended consequence, and whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I think time will tell.
For the United States.
Yeah, for the
I have to say I disagree with Morrissey, who says Zionism is the enemy of humanity. It literally just means that Jews should have a state for self-determination. I believe in statehood for English people. I believe in statehood for Tibetans, statehood for Palestinians. I believe in statehood for all sorts of groups. So
United States, I think
it's weird to think that just like Zionism, one group having a state, is the end of humanity.
Time will tell the new leadership there. You're right to be concerned. Let me step back and let's talk.
By the way, guys, leave a like on the stream. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a like on the stream, my friends. Leave a like on the stream. We've got how many likes have we got? I think it's about 10 or 11. We've got 25 people watching live on YouTube. It's a bit of a smaller audience today. If you're watching live, please leave a like. Leave a like. YouTube will recommend us to more people. Very important. Thank you, guys.
Talk regime change generally. I mentioned Syria. I also opposed the Iraq War. I think the Iraq War was a serious mistake. And we have a pattern, and going back to this binary of the interventionist and the isolationist. The interventionists advocate over and over again. There's a bad guy. There's a dictator who's doing bad.
Any Zionism is so played out and cringe. I agree with Free October here.
Things to his people, and they say, let's go topple them. And you have dictators in the Middle East who are killing radical Islamic terrorists. We come in and topple them. The radical Islamic terrorists take over, and they start killing Americans. In my view, how the heck does that help us? Like, Saddam Hussein was a horrible human being. He murdered and tortured people. Unequivocally bad guy. But it got much worse after we toppled him. And you ended up having ISIS rise up. I mean, that was the cause of ISIS, was toppling Saddam Hussein. Same thing in Libya. You had Gaddafi, another horrible guy, that under Obama, we toppled him. And you ended up having radical Islamic warlords taking over. And so...
Yeah, this is a good point by Tom Klein. Like, there are literally dozens of ethno-states around the world. Literally, like, probably more than 100 of the states that exist in the world are ethno-states. Like, how many Arab ethno-states exist? How many... Like, there are so many, but people only really care. Like, I agree with SSWB. China is a Han ethno-state. Nobody ever goes, oh, dismantle the Han ethno-state. Nobody ever talks about that. It's just Israel. That's the only one they're obsessed with. Like Vietnam is a state for Vietnamese people. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
And it's the question I asked in Syria. Okay, well, what's the plan? And how is this good or bad for the United States? And so I don't think with Iran, I view Iran as very different from Iraq.
But up to that point, you say we disagree. I don't hear really anything. I'm not quite sure what happened in Syria, but I don't know. So, right. But other than that, I don't hear anything I disagree with at all.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in a complete agreement. I wonder, though, is there a successful regime change that the United States supported that you're aware of in the last 100 years?
Sure. Defeating the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union collapsing, winning the Cold War.
Tucker asked if there's a single regime change of the past 100 years that has been successful, and he just ignores Germany and Japan during World War II. It's crazy.
That was the most consequential step for U.S. national security interests of our lifetimes.
Okay.
And
so you would classify that as a regime change that we affected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, you and I are in my office. We're sitting next to a painting of Reagan in front of the Brandenburg Gate. And up top are the words, tear down this wall, in German, in the style of the graffiti.
Right.
And I think those are the most important words any leader has said in modern times. And if you look at how Reagan waged the Cold War, and Reagan is very much my model for how to, I actually think how Reagan took on the Soviet Union is exactly how we should take on China. Now, starting from the point, look, Reagan was not an interventionist. In 8 years, the biggest...
Japan and Germany were, they both had regime change as a result of World War II. They both became democratic countries, both became allies of America.
This country Reagan ever invaded was Grenada. He was very reluctant to use U.S. military force.
He didn't respond after the 83 barracks bombings.
You're right. He made the judgment that the risk exceeded the benefits. And that's a very rational decision to make. And it's reflected. Trump has made those same decisions where he is willing to use military force, but he very much asks, okay, is this good or bad for America? Does this endanger U.S. servicemen and women or not? And one of the points about the Cold War, look, nobody in their right mind wanted a shooting war between America and the Soviet Union. The two biggest nuclear powers on Earth firing bullets at each other is really unhealthy for human beings. Same thing is true with China. Nobody with any sense says, hey, let's go to war with China.
Yeah, they literally went from some of the worst regimes in the entire planet to just some of the best governments in the world.
That's really dumb, and a whole lot of people could die. But the Cold War showed we've got lots of tools short of sending the Marines to fight against a regime. And one of the most important tools is the bully pulpit. And so when I say I support regime change, I actually think just simply laying out what the Ayatollah does. And so I spend a lot of time, I speak to Iranian dissident groups. I speak out against human rights abuses. I think shining a light on the depravity of leaders is a really powerful tool that America has.
Should we limit our activity to that?
It depends. Again,
because the U.S. government pays opposition groups, militarized opposition groups in Iran to overthrow the government. We've done it in a lot of different places, as you know. I'm not saying it's bad, but that's very different from what you're describing. You're saying we're making moral cases. We did for 7 years with the Soviets. Our system works. Yours doesn't.
Yep.
And I think we made a credible case for that.
Guys, leave a like on the Drew Pavlos stream if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, I encourage you to go across to my YouTube. I've got the link in the comment on my Twitter post for the live stream. Please leave a like. Leave a like on the show. Helps us reach more people. Thank you, guys. And Benny, the geopolitician, asked me, can you make an episode on the Myanmar Civil War? That would actually be really interesting. I would like to have that. I would like to do that. If you can recommend somebody to speak to, I think that'd be a really good thing. I'd love to talk to somebody about Myanmar.
That, and we beat them over 70 years economically.
And that was a huge part of it.
Right. I think everyone would agree that was the main part of it. We didn't beat them in Vietnam, North Korea.
The main part of it, but it was tied to a military buildup. So I think it was two things. It was one, the clarity. So Reagan came in and he described the Soviet Union as an evil empire.
Right.
And all of the intelligentsia in DC, all the Democrats, all the media, they're like, what a horrible thing to say. You can't say that. Reagan went to the United Kingdom. He said, Marxism, Leninism will end up on the ash heap of history. People were horrified. They asked him, all right, what's your strategy in the Cold War? He said, very simple. We win, they lose. And that was all viewed as sort of a Philistine simplicity. And I think it was exactly right. And laying that out, speaking, do you know the backstory behind the Berlin Wall speech?
Yeah, I do. Yes.
You probably know Peter Robinson, who
of
was
course.
the speechwriter.
Yes.
So 3 times the State Department deleted those words from that speech. And 3 times Reagan wrote it back. And the State Department
National
argued, they said,
Myanmar.
Mr. President,
I'll
we
look
can't
into
do
that.
this is too bellicose, this is too provocative. And my favorite, they said, this is too unrealistic. The Berlin Wall will stand till the end of time. And Reagan said, look, this is the whole point of the speech. And less than 3 years after Reagan gave that speech, the Berlin Wall was torn to the ground. And it wasn't knocked down by American Army tanks. We didn't shoot missiles at it. It was shining truth and light that tore it down. It was also rebuilding the American military. It was what was then pejoratively called Star Wars, where the Soviet Union, their economy couldn't match our military buildup, and it bankrupted them. That's an example of peace through strength.
I wonder, I mean, is there anybody who was alive in 1989 who wouldn't trade that America for the one we live in now? There's not one person, I don't think.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, just the basic metrics, debt, suicide rate, life expectancy. I wonder why after that victory, America didn't thrive in the way that we thought that it would, that I thought that it would. My family was involved in that. I mean, we were very focused on it in my house. Like,
Yeah.
we won. And I wonder two things. Why didn't the United States kind of declare victory and make some sort of arrangement with Russia that allowed like mutual prosperity rather than continuing a Cold War? And second, I wonder why the United States didn't get a lot better. Like, why don't we have better infrastructure? Why don't we have fewer homeless? Why do we have all these drugs? Like, if we won,
Simic for Syrian aristocrat wives looking like this. What of it? What of it? Probably a comment from somebody who is not attracted to women. That's fair. That's fair. If you're not attracted to women, then that's fair. That's fine by me. That's fine by me. Good luck to you.
why does our country look like this? I walked across from Union Station this morning, as you do, I'm sure, every day. And all these people lying in the street, sleeping outside. It's like, what is that?
We're sorry to say it, but this is not a very safe country. Walk through Oakland or Philadelphia, carry that. What the end, a lot of American defense and pistol fire, and they stop it and ship burn a pistol warehouse to
Doubt there are.
Burna.com.
Look, there's no doubt there are really dangerous forces in our society. Some of it is politics and some of it is culture. And one of the mistakes people make in politics is thinking everything is politics. So the political answer, which I happen to believe, is we went much further down the road of liberalism. You look at Bill Clinton, who inherited the peace dividend of the Cold War being over and moved us more to the left, and then Obama accelerated it a lot. So there are lots of
I agree.
bad economic policies, but I also think they're cultural things. The
But
loss
Jesse,
of
I
faith,
agree with
the loss
all
of
of that.
family.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree 100%. I bet there's not one word that I would disagree with. All I'm saying is, like, I think it's important to step back and ask.
But I actually think Russia has very little to do with it. So
well, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, Tucker's now talking for his Russian masters, as SSWB Redux says.
That I'm trying to make, which is like we're all sort of focused on beating our adversaries abroad, but what is victory worth if our own country becomes what it is now? And maybe we're spending a little too much time focused abroad and not enough time focused on the people sleeping outside Union Station.
So look, I absolutely think we need to focus at home emphatically, and we need to focus on prosperity. We need to focus on reducing the debt, reducing spending, empowering people, low taxes, small businesses. American free enterprise is the most powerful force for fighting poverty the world has ever seen. I'm 1,000% there. I also recognize it is a dangerous world, and part of the responsibility of leaders, part of President Trump's responsibility, is to keep America safe. Let's go back to where we started.
But can I ask,
Iran,
you've been
okay?
in the district a long time in DC, so have I. And the city's way more dangerous, and Congress runs this.
No, it's a complete crap hole.
So I'm saying, like, no Iranian's ever going to kill me. I could get carjacked here.
Well,
And I just don't
yes.
understand how the Congress could run the city and focus on the dangers of Iran when the city is like garbage. It's garbage.
But Congress doesn't run the city. We could.
Congress does run the city. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution, but they've given home rule, so it's a Democrat.
You can take it back. You control the Congress.
I'd vote for it, but it is a question of math.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, why? How can people ignore? It's like if my own kids are drug addicts, but I'm focused on my neighbor's kids. It's like I'm neglecting my own kids. And there's a sense in which the Congress is neglecting the country that elected them in favor of this relentless focus on other people's problems. That's the way.
It's so funny. We've got a guy in the chat who's basically saying, like, what's he saying? He's basically saying, like, oh, because Germany was defeated in World War II, that's why there's replacement migration and white people are becoming minority. Like, dude, are you aware that, like, the Nazis literally had, like, Muslim SSS? The Nazis literally had Muslim SS regiments. Like, that's what, like, they literally brought in people to fight for them in the SS. So it's a world's a lot more complex than you think, mate.
It feels as an American.
Look, there are lots of problems in America that we need to fix. Why is DC a pit? Because you have a mayor and a Democrat city council that won't let police officers arrest bad guys. And in every city you see across the country, whether it's New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's LA, whether it's San Francisco, if you have Democrats, we see the LA riots where they won't let people be arrested. All right.
Then why not work in regime change here? Why not use the bully pulpit?
What do you think I do every day?
I never see a Republican senator stand up and say, I just walked to work this morning over people dying of drug ODs. We're going to shut this place down unless they fix it. They're mad about Putin. Like, what did Putin do to Washington? Nothing.
What did Putin do? Fucking crazy, hey. Fucking crazy. You can see somebody doing an ode. This is the bullshit about Tucker, right? He'll support, far-right governments that basically are completely pro-neoliberal, will gut all social spending, etc. And then he'll just complain like, oh, there are ODs in the street. We can't fucking oppose Putin. It's bullshit. King of JC. Tucker went to the nicest place in Moscow and thinks that's what the whole of Russia is like. Yeah, it's actually so cringe. Genuinely don't know why people care about this debate. Two retards lying with a straight face. Yeah, honestly, Tucker v. Ted Cruz is pretty evil, eh? I do think you actually have to put like criminals in prison, though. I do think that, but it's just bullshit that Tucker will see parts of America become a shithole, mostly as a result of Republican policies, and then he will just be like, "Oh, this proves we should be more like Russia." It's like fucking mental.
Look, in terms of regime change, let's talk this week. The riots in LA. I've made very clear that the cause of those riots are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And when you elect communists who hate America, who stop law enforcement from arresting criminals, you get what you get on the street.
Amen, I agree.
My in-laws are Californians, and they're wonderful people. Heidi grew up on the Central Coast of California. And I remember I was texting with my mother-in-law, and I think I sent her a video of criminals going to a store and just looting in California. And her response, she said something like, "Well, this is really terrible. I wish we could. It's a shame we can't do anything about this." So yes, you can. Go in and arrest them. Throw their butts in jail. Put them in handcuffs.
100%.
And it stops.
Exactly.
And so we know how to fix these things.
Thank you for tuning in, guys. We've got 36 live viewers. Please leave a like on the stream. If you're watching, please leave a like on the stream. YouTube recommends us to more people, helps us reach more of an audience. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
DC I think DC voted, if I remember right, 92% Democrat. Democrat policies don't work, and they destroy every community that they are in charge of.
Then why don't Republicans assert their constitutional authority over the city? Don't they control the Congress?
Yes, I'd be all for it.
Who's against it?
Susan Collins is really vocally against it. So on questions of home rule, so for example, let's take an issue you and I care a lot about, the COVID lockdowns. I had a couple of years ago in the middle of them. the DC school district was proposing throwing out of school any child that was not vaccinated. And at the time, if I remember correctly, it was something like 40% of the African-American students in DC were not vaccinated. So we're talking about literally throwing out 40% of the kids at public school. And so I had a vote on the Senate floor to say, look, they can't throw kids out of school for this. And we ended up having a big argument. And part of the argument was home rule, where there was, and Susan was the most vocal Republican. That's like, no, we have to let DC run. And I'm like, why? Constitution gives us the power to do it. And it ended up, by the way, every single Democrat, all of them, voted in favor of the DC public schools being able to throw out 40% of the black kids from school. And I said, look, you throw a kid out of school, you got a 14, 15-year-old boy, you throw him out of school, you know what's going to happen next. He's going to join a gang. He's going to engage in crimes. He's going to engage in drugs. He could be dead within 5 years if that kid doesn't get an education.
To be honest, I actually agree with Ted Cruz here. Like, can't put 14-year-old black kids on the street. Crazy.
Democrats were more than happy to say, we don't care. Right now, our religion is get the vaccine or to hell with you.
Can you see, I mean, once again, I couldn't agree with you more, but can you feel the frustration of people, including your voters, every American, at the emphasis on foreign countries and the threat we supposedly face, one which is fake, obviously.
That's bullshit. It's not fake. That's just bullshit. He goes, oh, not a single country in the world threatens America. That's bullshit. Fight Sport Talk. Drew, I interviewed Trevor Loudon, and he's a friend of yours and how you embarrassed Jones. He would like to recommend his book on Anthony Albanese that exposed connection to communism. Salute, bro. I don't know who Trevor Loudon is. Interesting. Thank you. I'll have a look into it. Thank you, man. Trevor Loudon, Anthony Albanese. Okay, I'll have a look.
We're over the kind of slowly unfolding tragedy of what's happening to our country. The dollars spent, the aid package to Ukraine to pay the retirement of civil servants in a country that we have nothing to do with. The endless support for Israel.
This is bullshit, by the way. He goes, oh, we've got nothing to do with Ukraine. We shouldn't help them. Ukraine had 1,800 nuclear weapons on their territory. They were one of the scientific and military technological centers for the Soviet Union. If they wanted to, they really could have reverse engineered those codes and taken control of those nukes, which were completely on their territory. They gave them up to Russia in exchange for Russia and America signing an agreement that Ukraine's borders were inviolable. And then in the end, Russia invades Ukraine. You can't just walk away from that. Ukraine gave away its nuclear bombs at the request of America to sign the Budapest Memorandum. That's an American demand that they made on Ukraine. And therefore, if you just walk away from it, then you own that. You own that issue. You own that. You own that, guys. If you demand that Ukraine give up its nuclear weapons, and then in exchange you ask that Ukraine, if you demand that Ukraine give up its nuclear weapons, and then you say to them, we will protect you in exchange for you giving up those nuclear weapons, it's your fault if Russia then invades and you don't help them. So just a sick thing from Tucker Carlson. He's just a propagandist. Very expensive when people are literally buying groceries on credit in the United States. Can you feel like it's nothing against Ukraine or Israel?
All right, let's stop. You said the support for Israel very expensive. How much support do we give Israel?
Well, you tell me. You vote for it.
Yeah, it's about $3 billion a year. It's the military assistance.
Mm-hmm. Is that the only assistance?
Yeah, we just have military assistance. Israel does not have additional assistance. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and it's $3 billion a year.
So what is it costing the support for the bombing campaign to protect Israel right now from Iran?
So I don't know right now, but I'll tell you this. Let's go back to the touchstone on foreign policy. American interest. Our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security
Well, what does
interest,
it
and
cost?
it benefits us enormously.
Well, before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it. I think we need to know what it costs. So, what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No,
The
that's
last week-
the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers to the region, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know. And there's some lag when the administration on the Constitution, the commander-in-chief, has control of the armed forces. And so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time.
Cast, I haven't heard about that before.
But I don't know the last week. That I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum
I didn't see Tucker tell Jeffrey Sachs that America should coup Zelensky. That's shameless. That's disgusting.
of understanding, and that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel. Israel shares the Mossad is one of the best intelligence sources on the planet. The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Good.
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I
They do.
assume all of our allies spy.
I mean, every single country has spies in every other country on earth. America has spies in Israel. America was spying on Germany. Germany probably spies on America. I mean, every country on earth has its intelligence agents everywhere.
On us.
That's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all. Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
That's not what he's saying. He's saying that everybody's going to act in their own self-interest, and every state on earth is going to have spies. Isn't it bullshit that that Tucker has a problem with Israel supposedly spying on the West, and then he's got no problem with Russia constantly spying on the West? So it's just bullshit hypocrisy from Tucker, as always.
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not.
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that, and by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clear?
But I just want to stop on this line for a second. That it takes place, as you know.
It's just so funny that Tucker is like, oh my God, Israel has spies. America has spies. Every country on earth has spies, dude. Every country on earth has spies. Come on, be realistic. Russia has spies in America. You don't see Tucker Carlson complaining about Russian spies.
And including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. It's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Sure, I would say don't spy on us. They're going to anyway. And by the way, the Brits are, the Canadians are. Like, I don't think.
Well, I'm not for that at all. I think it's disgusting. But we don't actually pay their. We're not their most meaningful sponsor. We're not sort of paying for the operations of the British
government. I got to say, and this is it's weird. We're talking about isolationists. The obsession with Israel. Why is Israel?
Well, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot.
He is obviously obsessed with Israel.
People are, and like the question, Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess. Oh no, I'm hardly the one who. I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel
from AIPAC?
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals. So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with.
Tuck, listen, this is the part where Ted Cruz obviously gets bogged down because Tucker is able to effectively portray him as though he's like a kind of foreign asset in the United States. And I think really the only way you can combat that is you just push back against the idea that, the fact that Tucker's obsessed with Israel, he's literally himself a foreign asset of Russia. And, but he has the goal to tell other people that they're not being patriotic.
The stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Right.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, I wish were much more effective. Like there are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC.
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people with AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's
America has thousands of colleges.
Hillsdale College. Beautiful.
And ask yourself, is this the best educated the truth? Facts, history, English, math. If you think it sounds good, because it is good, think of this. Hillsdale is offering.
Yeah, exactly as Tom Klein says, the USMC in Israel is 100% tapping into Israeli political conversation. It would be crazy to think they don't. Of course they do. Dude, every country on earth spies on each other, okay? That's just part of it. And this is the bullshit as well. Like to a certain extent, America actually allows Russia, like America, to a certain extent, states even allow their enemies to spy on them. Like to a certain extent, America allows Russia and China to have foreign intelligence assets in their country. Because to a certain extent, there's a rational argument to be made that if there's completely no sort of sources of intelligence, like if there's no pipeline for intelligence to get to another country, then it can be the case that the leaders on the other side make really scary, irrational decisions. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's one rational argument.
Bring over 40 free online courses you can enroll in today. There's no catch at all. You don't have to pay anything. Not going to hit you up for anything. It's free. You can learn about the Constitution, the Bible, the basis of Western civilization, Rome's rise and fall, early Christian church, things that actually matter. Not one dime. Free. They have a new class called Understanding Capitalism that teaches Americans basic economic ideas, describes our own system, a system that is falling apart. A lot of people want you to hate, but for 250 years, our country, markets are good. Students. TuckerForHillsdale.com to sign up for Understanding Capitalism today. The course Understanding Capitalism, zero cost, just the truth. That's TuckerForHillsdale.com to enroll for free.
Drew, can we see your assignments? No, I'm not going to put them on the stream. That's funny. I've got one more essay. When
was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and get a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive.
No,
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government. And I don't, it's not. It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay. So it's not, has nothing to do with foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay. But it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC.
Do you think there's not nearly strong enough? Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If
Percy wants to debate on World War II, yeah, sure, maybe later this week.
You're lobbying for more U.S.
I hope that there is a free Iran, Yusuf. I hope that the Democrats rise up. I hope that people who believe in democracy in Iran rise up. Can you put your old assignments on the stream? I wish to judge your academic skills and knowledge. I used to have very good grades. I used to have perfect grades. Maybe another stream.
U.S.-Mexico trade. Would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if
so, I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries.
It's so funny because guys, you know what's bullshit? Like Tucker sat down with the Qatari Prime Minister, and he did a whole interview with them, and basically some kind of Qatar lobby group arranged it for money, and then he's suddenly just outraged about AIPAC, right? But he's literally working with people who are lobbying for the Qatar government all the time.
Countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including
but AIPAC are Americans.
But hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah,
and
why
aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions. And you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
being feverish about it, which I'm not.
Drew, do you support the Israeli lobby? The greatest people on earth, my friend. The greatest people on the earth.
At all? I'm just...
You know what's funny? I've criticized the Israeli government so many different times. I've criticized the Israeli government many times. I've said openly that I don't like Netanyahu. I've said openly that I hate Ben-Gvir and Smotrich. But of course, I'm tarred as the great Mossad Zionist or whatever, just because I don't think Israel should be destroyed by raving Islamist psycho jihadists. Yeah, David is true. Qatar Carlson, that's literally it. Also, did you apologize to Zorhan's wife for that Hey Radley tier post about her? You got dragged over the coals over it. Do you follow Stone's rule and just never admit defeat? What? I got dragged over the coals because a bunch of jihadists and communists got mad at me for saying, oh yeah, Zoran's wife's hot. Sorry that I am from Cyprus, which is a country very close to Syria. It's a Levantine country. As a Levantine country, I believe that Levantine women are beautiful. Sorry that my ancestral memory Sorry that my ancestral memory predisposes me to finding Levantine women to be beautiful. Sorry for that. I'm not going to fucking apologize for not being gay, okay? I'm not going to apologize for not being gay. I'm not going to apologize for being straight. Sorry, guys. Sorry that I'm attracted to women. Wow. Tom Klein says this: AIPAC is not associated with the Israeli government. It's associated with the country. AIPAC existed long before Netanyahu and it also existed during Rabin's peace government. True. I'm asking about the Israeli lobby in Australia. Should that even exist? Listen, like, we're friends with Israel. It's a good country. It's a democratic country. I think we should be friends with democracies around the world. Simple as. Yeah, David's correct on this. AIPAC aren't registered as FARA because the people who give money to AIPAC are fucking Americans. But that's it, David. Like, if you ask Tucker in his heart of hearts, he would say that they're all dual loyalty people. He'd say they're not real Americans because obviously he doesn't like Jewish people.
I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
So, Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate in 2012. I came in Obama's second term. And I actually saw AIPAC be badly wounded in a way they never came back from. And the second term is when Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. And the Iran nuclear deal, I think, was catastrophic. And AIPAC went all in lobbying against it.
Yeah.
And they failed. And I was the leading opponent.
By the way, guys, we've got 30 people watching live on YouTube. Please leave a like on the stream. Leave a like on the stream. If you're watching, leave a like on the stream. It helps me a lot. Thank you. Helps the Drew Pavlich show rise.
Of the Iran nuclear.
Oh, I know. They definitely failed. Yes.
They failed. And what happened, the Obama White House told every Democrat, when I got here, there used to be real bipartisan.
Is there even a Chinese equivalent to AIPAC? That's another level. That's another level. Like, the Chinese government literally has Communist Party front groups. The Chinese equivalent of AIPAC, that would be as though, imagine if like there was a Likud front network, right? That's the difference, right? That's the difference. Because people don't realize, but the Chinese state is not independent of the Chinese Communist Party. The Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese state are fused together. So the Chinese government operates United Front groups that do outreach on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. The equivalent would be if AIPAC was completely controlled by Likud and it was just like Likud's foreign lobby group. Okay, that's the difference. That's the difference. Yeah, it's true by Tom Klein. Some of them are just Jews who've lived in America for like literally 150 years and they just care about Jews across the sea. I agree with that. You're a flaming straggart, Drew. Flamboyant personality, coiffed hair, cute little dogs, lisp. I don't have a lisp. You're LGBT except that you only have relationships and sex with women. Straight LGBT. Firstly, I don't have a lisp. Secondly, I'm not flamboyant at all. I'm very normal. Coiffed hair? No, it's just a little bit up. David says he's going to eat Tucker's kidney.
Partisan support for Israel. That has largely disappeared. And it's the Obama.
Guys, we've got 35 live viewers. Thank you so much if you're watching on the YouTube stream. Please leave a like. YouTube recommends us to more people. We've got 24 likes on the stream with 35 live viewers. If you're watching live, please leave a like on the YouTube stream. It helps us reach more people.
Obama nuclear deal that caused it because the Obama White House told every Democrat, pick. You either stand with Israel
this guy's got it,
or you're a Democrat, you stand with the Obama White House. And almost every single Democrat member of Congress said, I'm a Democrat first, to hell with Israel.
Yep.
And then I watched as AIPAC, every one of those Democrats got reelected and AIPAC did nothing about it. And it dramatically reduced AIPAC's influence.
I agree. I watched it happen.
And by the way, I told AIPAC, I said, look, the analogy, if the NRA was supporting a bunch of politicians and cared about the Second Amendment, and you had politicians that vote to confiscate people's guns, and the NRA turned around and raised money for the people who voted to confiscate guns, you know what? No one would ever care what they said again.
So you're making the case that AIPAC is not as powerful as people say it is, and I completely agree with you. I've watched that, and I'm not making the case that AIPAC is
true. Like, AIPAC isn't as powerful as people think it is.
all powerful and they're running everything and putting fluoride in the water. I'm not making that case at all because that's not true. I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered. And you're saying that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
I coordinate. Do they talk with them? I don't know what they do.
But why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government?
Hey, I talk with Israel all the time.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
All the time.
But the law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working for Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act. And if I don't, I can go to jail. People have gone to jail. People I know. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. They're coordinating with the government. You know that that's true.
That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating with the Israeli government.
Do you know how AIPAC raises money?
What?
For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
I get it. I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with.
Thank you, Pickles Little Blank, for the super chat. Drew and Trump are the straightest gay men of all time. No, listen. I'm not gay at all. I'm straight. Okay. Yeah. Percy, you're so clueless on this, dude. If you ask the average Jewish person in Australia right now, they all want to have a fucking shut border. They all want to close the border. Nobody likes the jihadist rallies. No one likes the Hamas and Hezbollah rallies. Literally, if you polled Jewish Australians, they'd probably be stronger on closing the borders than white Australians, okay? So this idea that the Judeo-Bolsheviks are doing the great replacement, it's so not true, dude. It's so not true. It's literally just bullshit.
With them.
So what they'll do is
like, if you talk to Jewish Australians or Jewish Americans, they probably have much more conservative views on migration than the average person. David says this: when I met with AIPAC, I learned about their process. Often AIPAC refused to lobby for something that the Israeli government is interested about. Okay, fair enough. Listen, I want to read into it more. It's interesting. It's like horseshoe theory. At a certain point, you're so straight, you go gay, or vice versa. I've never thought about that theory before. Thank you for that, Pickles LeBlanc. Horseshoe theory of gayness.
So in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser. And they'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who'll host it. And it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, someone who hosts it. And you'll get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city,
right?
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. Yeah. And if they have 50 people, each of them writes $1,000 check and you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. I know what it looks like.
But that is not, and by the way,
shit, Tucker's been to an AIPAC fundraiser. Holy fuck, guys. Isn't that fucking, you know what's funny? Between me and Tucker Carlson, only one of us has gone to an AIPAC fundraiser, and it's literally Tucker Carlson, not me. Isn't that funny, right? That's amazing. People go, Drew, the great Zionist Mossad influence agent. Tucker's literally been to AIPAC dinners. I haven't. Also, have you heard the phrase strategic or great power autism in geopolitics? I think I've heard of that before. We've got to talk about the RAF embarrassing itself. That actually, I should look into that. Are you talking about the Palestine Action Network in Britain breaking into an RAF base and literally damaging 2 British planes? We'll definitely look at that tonight on the stream.
Way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have when you're in Dallas, you're meeting with
false and silly conversation. I know all this. The question is,
Percy saying, why does an AIPAC advocate for closing the border? I don't know if you've noticed, but like Jewish groups in America have been advocating Trump's deportation of extremists.
Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's a really simple question. Lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you a question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Hey, are they shaped by? Are
they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes.
The Israeli government
directing them? You want to talk about FARA, the law on lobbying on behalf of someone? Yeah. It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they're not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but
do you think that it's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know.
Do you think Tucker is anti-Semitic, Drew? I think he plays footsies with it.
Why you'd be embarrassed of it? You said that you were sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to
by the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel. We're talking about foreign countries.
Hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
I'm an anti-Semite now.
Senator, you're asking the question, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that. And I have...
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews. There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews.
You said, I'm asking you.
By the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer, give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I'm in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about
if I can finish. You asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which
Yes.
is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll
in a
answer any
straightforward,
question you'd
rational
like.
way? You certainly have the IQ to do it. So
Shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
it is. It's not cute. I'm offended.
You're
I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
You
that
just called me a
ran-
sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government
You
is
want to
run.
count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about
I never
AIPAC?
asked about the Jews. I have, this has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two. They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence
Israel
of
and
foreign...
Jews have nothing to do with each
No,
other.
all Jews are an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking. Now, I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because
Except you don't want to do
specific
anything about it.
decisions need to be made...
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But I just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest
All right,
conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try
Are you
to
going to call me an anti-Semite again or no?
let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I
Just asking questions. Yes, that's it. That is what I'm doing.
let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit.
Picture the house of your dreams. Maybe it's got an outdoor pool, a huge front porch, an inviting fireplace for a cold winter's night. No matter what you prefer, there's little
I love
doubt
the ads.
that
I
an
love the
American
ads.
flag waving out front enhances the whole thing. What better way to welcome your guests than with a flag
I love his
outside your
ads.
home? But wait, there's a problem. The American flags you're likely to buy at some big stores were made in China. An American flag made in China? Come on. Pure Talk, America's wireless company, believed weathered in time. A dependable 5G network while cutting your self-veterans and to switch to America's company. Wireless from Pure Talk.
And did you ever see an Eddie Murphy movie called The Distinguished Gentleman?
Drew, do you think Epstein was just a misunderstood playboy like Destiny said? I don't think Destiny said that.
It's a great movie. It's actually a fun comedy about politics. And Eddie Murphy in the movie is a con man who gets fun comedy, an Eddie Murphy movie called The Distinguished Gentleman.
No.
It's a great movie. It's actually a fun comedy about politics. And Eddie Murphy in the movie is a con man who gets elected to Congress. And he's literally a con man who the congressman dies, he has the same name, and so he runs and they get elected. And there's a scene in the movie where Eddie Murphy is a freshman member of Congress and he's sitting down with a sleazy lobbyist. And he's asking the lobbyist,
Holy shit. Percy's saying, oh, people who've been in America for 130 years can't be American. That's fucking bullshit, dude. Like, if somebody is Jewish American and their ancestors came in 1880, that's literally 145 years ago. Dude, Trump's ancestors came in the 1880s. You're going to say that Trump isn't a full American? That's bullshit, dude. That's bullshit. If you've been there your family's been there for 140 years, you're American.
all right, what should my positions be on, I think they were talking about power plants and electrical transmission lines. And the lobbyist's like, well, what do you believe? And Eddie Murphy's comment said, I don't care, whatever gets me the most money. I'll do whatever gets me the most money. And the lobbyist says, no, pick a side. Doesn't matter what you pick. If you pick one side, we'll go shake down everyone who supports that side and they'll give you money. If you pick the other side, that's fine. We'll just go to the other side and shake down that. That's a little bit the way it works. And you often get leftists in the media who say, for example, if you support the Second Amendment, as you do and I do, well, you're just bought and paid for by the NRA. And that actually is backwards. I believe in the Second Amendment because I believe in the Constitution. Now, am I proud that the NRA supports me? Sure, because people who care about the Second Amendment.
To be honest, I don't even like Ted Cruz and I don't even like the NRA, but this is actually a good point. Like, I think a lot of leftists get it wrong where they're like, oh, the NRA controls American politics. And it's like, no, the NRA is popular because there are people in American politics who like the NRA. Like, if the NRA didn't exist, somebody would form the NRA because obviously America had a very strong gun culture even before the NRA. And I think even if AIPAC didn't exist, there'd be a lot of Americans who still support Israel. So,
Want to support leaders who fight for it. But it gets it backward. Look, AIPAC, when I ran for the Senate, AIPAC didn't support me. I supported Israel before.
by the way, guys, thank you. We've got 38 live viewers on the YouTube stream. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, please leave a like on the stream. Helps us reach more people. Would really appreciate it. And if you're watching on Twitter, please go to the live stream and leave a like. Go to YouTube. It's a better viewing experience.
They supported me. I'm happy to have their support because they share my objective.
No, but you're missing
But-
it. I'm not suggesting that you're bought and paid for. I'm not saying that. I think
actually, I
your
want to go back and
views are sincere.
I want to go back and take the transcript because you just said a minute ago, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but are you lobbying for foreign government because they pay you a lot of money? That's basically what you said. So you are suggesting
Let me just be clear about what I think. Your views seem totally sincere.
Genuine question for Percy. Percy, do you think Stephen Miller is not an American? I assume you'd like Stephen Miller because he's obviously like a big MAGA Trump guy. He's organizing all these deportations. He's Jewish. Are you going to say he's not American? Like, come on, dude. It's just bullshit.
Sure.
Yes.
You take money from people who agree with you.
Yeah.
I believe that. I'm only
I take money from people who disagree with me.
I'm only trying to get to the question of to what extent is the U.S. government influenced by other governments? And it's a lot.
Of
It's
course,
hardly just Israel. It's hardly just Israel. I don't think Israel's the main one. There are lots of governments. China is a massive influence on the city.
And it's a huge
as
problem.
you know. I couldn't agree more. And there are lots of other. The UK, which is a truly sinister place, in my opinion, as a ethnic Brit, I can
Yeah, I agree with Pickles LeBlanc. NRA is not actually the force it once was. That's true.
say. I think that's my view. Maybe you disagree.
I think they're on the wrong path. I love
Whatever,
the Brits, but their government
without
has
even
gone
getting
off
into
the
that.
rails.
I'm just saying I don't think Israel's the only one. But it's the only one where you're instantly called an anti-Semite for asking questions. And it's also the only government that no one will ever criticize. And
What do you mean? Like, dude, I get called xenophobic when I criticize the Chinese government. Like, that's bullshit, right? Oh, Israel's the only government where you criticize them and you get called racist. Dude, I get called racist for criticizing the Chinese government all the time. Karsechi says Stephen Miller is legitimately insane. I'm not endorsing Stephen Miller. I'm just putting it back on this Nazi guy, Percy. Percy is a far-right guy who loves Trump. And presumably he'd probably like Stephen Miller because Stephen Miller is organizing all Trump's deportations. Is he going to then say, oh, Stephen Miller is Jewish, so he can't be American? Genuine question for this Percy guy. Genuine question for this far-right Percy guy. Do you reckon Stephen Miller is American? He's Jewish, obviously, but he's organizing the deportations that you love. Are you going to say that he's not a real American?
I
People
find that
criticize Israel every minute of every day. Like the only government that people will not criticize, Rashida Tlaib just
Well,
tweeted
is there
out calling
any-
Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal.
Rashida Tlaib, no,
You said no one will criticize.
no, I'm talking about Republicans that I would vote for, including you. And I'm saying, whatever. I don't even like talking about Israel. What I care about, I never do because it's not worth being called anti-Semites from AIPAC recipients. But now we are on the verge of joining a war, and I just want to be clear about why we're doing this.
All right, so and
Yeah, I agree with Tom Klein. This is how I see it, right? Same with Australian citizen. Citizenship, you see yourself as American, or in Australia's case, you see yourself as Australian, see your life and destiny in the country, assimilate to the language, culture of the country. I think that's the main
let's get into Iran momentarily. But you suggested it was a strange thing that I said a minute ago that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be the leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why. So let me tell you why.
Betty says, I reiterate my demand for a Myanmar episode. You can invite Leong Wei Kit, a Myanmar-based journalist. Okay, that sounds cool. I'm going to look it up. Leong Wei Kit. I will look it up. Leong Wei Kit. Okay. Thank you for that. I'm going to look that up. I do want to do an episode on Myanmar. I do agree.
No,
with
you
that.
said I was obsessed with Israel, and you had just told me that like your driving motive to get to the Senate was to defend Israel. I'm like,
No.
I don't think I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel.
Okay,
I don't even think about Israel.
Tucker, words matter.
Uh-huh.
And you know that. I said I resolved to be the leading defender of Israel. And you said your driving motive, the reason you're in the Senate.
You want to
No,
be the leading defender of Israel? I would think if I ran for Senate, I'd be like, there are people dying of drug abuse on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. And you played a very, very careful word game of a lie to
You're the
you.
one who said it, not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian, growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed.
I got a troll here. Where's the growth you predicted for your streams, Drew? Still stuck at 30, 40 viewers after months. Dude, I've been doing this for a month and a half. It's been growing slowly. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to be Rogan overnight. Ilhan Omar is a different situation because Ilhan Omar has not actually assimilated at all. She obviously is like a Somali ultra-nationalist. She's an Islamist. She's got all these race-based hatreds. I think Ilhan Omar hasn't assimilated. That's a difference.
And those who curse Israel will.
As Pickles LeBlanc says, this is a good point. 98% of streamers quit just before they get it big. Absolutely, I'm not going to quit, guys, because it's like that meme with the guy digging for diamonds, where literally could be right around the corner, but you can be Frogan overnight. So true. Yeah, Tom Klein's true. She is technically an American citizen, but it's debatable if she is truly an American citizen. If she's truly American because she's anti-American. I agree with that. You should do more unhinged debate. That's the only way for liberal skipping. I'm going to do more debating.
Will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government. Now, this is the nation of Israel.
Listen, this is where I'm going to really.
That's in the Bible.
disagree with
As a
Cruz.
Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you.
Oh, someone said you copped the mention today on the Hey Tree Pod. Really? Where do you know what part of the Hey Tree Pod? I want to watch that. That's cool. Listen, I really like Ethan Klein. That's cool. Hey Tree Podcast. Do you know what part of the episode it was? I'm going to look that up. Yeah, it's true. If you actually look at it, Ilhan Omar obviously doesn't view America as her homeland. She's been very clear that she believes Somalia is her homeland. So that's the difference, right? That's the difference. Oh, Ethan read out my donation. Okay, I'll put that up. That's pretty funny. All right, hang on. Hang on. I'll go back to the Tucker thing, but I just want to watch this for a little. Many are saying Drew is this generation's Charles de Gaulle. So true. So factually true. I would fight and defend it for if Australia was ever invaded, I'd fight and fucking defend it. I love Australia. Where is it? Hang on. Oh, the Denims GoFundMe. Okay, must be around here. Okay.
Right back into their arms. Let's take a look. That's insane.
Yeah,
That is insane.
for once I'm agreeing with Denims.
Yeah, no, she's right. But,
that is really
but
fucking
she
sleazy. What the
continues
fuck?
The next step is the cell phone part.
Right.
Because she's on about how shady they are, and then she's like, "I need you again."
Right.
I remember. Oh, not Icarus.
I'm still stuck.
My mind
If
went.
you're
Okay.
I was thinking ball.
Oh, okay. I much
Okay.
prefer that. Drew Pavlov says, "Hey, Denims, I was going to subscribe to Ethan, but I figured this way the money would go to him anyway."
No, you should just send it here.
Yeah, you can send it to me. Now I can finally donate ethically to the Kleins.
Oh my
That's
god,
pretty
you
funny,
guys.
actually.
It's 100% of the.
Was organically going to donate this to the Children's Cancer Research Fund, but this seems like a better cause.
Oh god.
I'm still stuck on the hay.
Can you imagine? You're gonna go donate to Gaza or the Children's Cancer Fund, and then unfortunately, Denim says, "I need your help." Fucked up.
yeah.
No, I like it. I like Ethan. Ethan's a cool guy. I've talked to him a couple times. I donated $5 to Denims as a troll, and I just said like I thought I'd subscribe to Ethan, but I thought this way it'll go to him anyway because he's got to beat her and take all of her money.
Right now, this tiny little country is really different. Number one is I'm careful fight.
I have drug buddies on the street.
My driving motive is to fight for Texas and America, and to fight for jobs, and to fight for the Constitution. And you played a very, very careful word game of a lie to
You're the
you.
one who said it,
Okay.
not me.
So you still haven't asked why, but I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
And the reason is twofold. Number one, as a Christian,
I want to say, right, this is where I disagree. Listen, I'm Christian myself, but I think that American evangelical Christian thing where they're like, God commands us to, like, you know, worship Israel. I think that's silly. Right? I don't think it's a good idea.
growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible.
I think it's evangelical Christian, and that's where it gets a bit cringe. Like, I don't think it convinces anybody.
Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
I don't think that's a good argument for Israel. As I said, I support Israel bombing the Iranian nuclear reactors. I just don't think the American Christian evangelical arguments are good arguments, because if you're not a Christian and you hear that, you're like, oh, like you're not gonna be convinced, obviously.
And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who
It's called dispensationalism and meme theology invented like, yeah, it's just like American burger stuff. How do you label the Drew meter? Pickles LeBanc, I'd say you're a top fan. I'd say that.
bless the government of Israel.
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of it, says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my. You pull out the phone and use
It's
it.
in Genesis. But so you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it. You don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology. I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker,
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two,
Hold on.
no.
Bojan says, hey, Drew, I also donate $5 to Ethan. Good stuff, man.
Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I'm a Christian. And I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel.
we are commanded to support Israel. And we're
What does that
told,
mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what? Hold on. Define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis. That's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
And so is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel.
He's talking about the nation of Israel. Yeah, nations exist, and he's discussing a nation. A nation was the people of Israel.
Is the nation
They're the
God's
descendants of
referring
Abraham.
to in Genesis? Is that the same as the country run by Benjamin Netanyahu right now?
Yes,
It is. Okay.
And by the way, it's not run by Benjamin Netanyahu as a dictator. It's a
I'm not saying
Democratic
he's a
country that
dictator.
elected.
He's the prime minister.
Right.
What?
But just like America is the country run by Donald Trump. No, actually, the American people elected Donald Trump. The same principle.
This is silly. I'm talking about the political entity of modern Israel.
Yes, and that is.
You
that is
believe
Israel.
that's what God was talking about in
Yes,
Genesis?
I do, but
That country's existed since when?
for thousands of years. Now there was a time when it didn't exist, and then it was recreated just over 70
No, but
years.
I'm saying I think most people understand that line in Genesis to refer to the Jewish people, God's chosen people.
That's not what it says.
Okay, Israel, but you don't even know where in the Bible it is.
No, I don't want to be a fan. I want to be the middle ground between a hater like Gigi and a fan like Yusuf. Okay, dude.
So I
I
don't know.
I don't remember the scriptural citation, but okay, I keep.
Genesis 16 or something like that. But yes, it's in the earlier part. But the point is,
All right, Chuck, you keep
it's a
interrupting me
little-
before I
no,
finish
something like that.
scriptural citation. But okay, I keep.
Genesis 16 or something like that. But yes, it's in the earlier part. But the point is,
All right, Chuck, you keep
it's a little.
interrupting me
No,
before I
it's
finish my
just
sentence.
important to know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're. So you're saying as a Christian, if I
No.
believe in Jesus, I have to support the modern state of
No,
Israel.
I'm not saying that. I'm explaining for me what my vote motivation is.
But okay, so I'm just trying to understand. You said God tells you to support the modern state of Israel in the Bible, in some place in the Bible that you heard about, but you don't know where it is. That's your theology.
You're going back. Am I a sleazy feline again? I mean,
If you
don't
accuse me of
be so-
anti-Semitism again, I will say that, but I don't think you will.
Try to be a little less condescending. I'm trying to have a
Okay,
conversation,
condescending, you're throwing this stuff out, and it's my job to figure out what you're talking about.
Okay,
but I don't understand.
but you're not letting me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I want to be polite.
It's funny.
That is for me.
He's so hostile to Ted Cruz compared to like fucking his interview with Putin. He's literally infinitely more hostile to Cruz than his interview with Putin.
Personal motivation, but I also, what I was about to say, I don't believe my personal faith, not everyone who I represent is a Christian. It's not an argument for me to give that we should do this because of my faith. And so as an elected official, I don't give that as the reason we should support Israel. That is a personal motivation for me, but I don't think it is the reason we should. The reason that I'm the leading defender of Israel is because Israel is our strongest ally in the Middle East, an incredibly troubled part of the world, and supporting Israel benefits America. And the clearest illustration of that is what is happening right now. Let me just make this point. And then,
Okay, and then I'll just ask what you mean. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look, Iran, I think the most acute national security threat facing America right now is the threat of a nuclear Iran. I think China is the biggest long-term threat, but acute and near-term is a nuclear Iran.
Okay.
And I think Israel is doing a massive favor to America right now by trying to take out Iran's nuclear capacity. And the
I actually think it is a massive favor to America. Who the fuck wants Iran to have an atomic bomb? Only fucking nuts. Only fucking crazy people want that.
reason I view Iran differently. We talked before about Iraq. I posed the Iraq war. We talked about Syria. I posed military intervention in Syria. The reason for that is those did not pose a threat to the United States. I think Iran is markedly different. Number one, the Ayatollah is a religious zealot. He is a lunatic, but a particularly dangerous kind of lunatic.
Hey Max, how does it benefit America for Iran to have a nuclear bomb, given Iran constantly has the Iranian leaders have death to America as their motto. So tell us how it benefits America for them to have a nuclear bomb.
Because he's driven by religious fervor. When he says death to America and death to
Miha is you are right, Miha. Younger generations of politicians will not have this deep emotional and religious connection to Israel. That's true. For me, it's about I oppose the far left who want to kill like white people and Jewish people. That's why I support Israel, right? It's literally a defensive thing because I see the far left, they're talking about decolonizing America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all these so-called settler colonist countries. And they openly say that October 7 is their model. So of course I'm against that, right? Because I'm not suicidal. So that's explains my thing. It's out of opposition to the hard communist tanky left.
Israel. I believe him. And I think Iran is trying to get a nuclear weapon because there is a very real possibility they would use a nuclear weapon. So you want to ask, how does supporting Israel benefit us? Right now, this tiny little country, the size of the state of New Jersey, is fighting our enemies for us and taking out their top military leadership and trying to take out their nuclear capacity. That makes America much safer.
So the president has said repeatedly Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon,
Yes.
and he will do whatever it takes to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. He said that like 100 times. He clearly means it. I think he will use force to effect that if he feels he has to. I think he's been really clear about that. I don't know, but it seems that way. Do you feel it? Do you think that's correct?
Whether he would use force to stop a nuclear weapon, I think he has put that option on the
He
table.
certainly suggests. I mean, I literally
He's
no
put
idea
that
what's
option
going to
on-
happen, but just reading his statements, he's made that really clear.
So what he has been very clear about, and I spoke with the president on Sunday, is he has been very clear to Iran that if they attack U.S. servicemen and women,
Of
there will
course,
be real
that goes without
consequences and I think very serious military.
By the way, this is a sidebar, but I just can't resist. The prime minister of Israel said that Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump twice.
Yeah, I read your newsletter this morning, and
But do you believe that's true?
again, I think it was sort of a word game. What is true is Iran is trying to assassinate Donald J. Trump, and they have hired hitmen. Now, you pointed out.
No, he said that they have tried twice to kill him, and I don't know that, I don't have any evidence that's true, but I sort of wonder if that is true. Why aren't we at war with them already?
Okay, and I read your news.
Hey, Iran. Hey, Max, you know why Iran hasn't got the nuclear bomb yet? It's because Israel literally assassinated like 5 different Iranian nuclear scientists. They did Stuxnet, where they sabotaged the centrifuges. They've sabotaged Israel has sabotaged the Iranian nuclear program on at least like 10 separate occasions. That's the only reason they don't yet have nuclear bombs.
Newsletter this morning, and I thought it was playing word games to draw a political point.
How's that a word game? It's my president. And
Can I tell you?
Yeah, please.
Okay. You rightly pointed out there's no evidence that this clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, who shot the president was working for the Iranians. I don't think he was. There's no evidence of that. Although I would like to know more about who he was and what's going on. But I don't find it plausible that he was working for the Iranians. So was that caused by the Iranians? No. But what is true, and what your newsletter didn't acknowledge, is it true or false that Iran is currently trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen to do so?
Well, that's the question, and I don't know the Butler, Pennsylvania thing. Let's just put that aside. I don't know.
So Netanyahu misspoke when he said those 2 assassinations.
Sorry, I'm going to blow my nose. 1 second. Guys, sorry, I wasn't trying to do a Hassan chair stream. I just had to go blow my nose because unfortunately I've got a bit of a cold. Sorry about that. It's not a Hassan Piker chair stream. That's not what we're doing here. That's not what the Drew Palace show is about. I just had to quickly take a 1-minute break. Just trying to check. I'm trying to look up through the comment sections, and there's a lot of retarded shit in the comment section. Honestly, I'm thinking that yeah, good question. Why there's so many Nazis in the chat? I think honestly, like I might have to just start banning people because, like, I'm not going to get my streams taken down by schizo Nazis. Okay. Fuck, the chat's a schizo. It's not a Hassan stream because you paused the video, Drew. Yeah, good point. I don't just play it without being on the stream myself. It wasn't snorting nose. I was blowing my nose. I have a fucking cold. Okay? It's winter here in Australia and I got a bit of a cold. You need to purge your audience. I know. I'll talk to the mods. Happy Solstice Day. Tom Klein is correct here. You can't just say that America's only Anglo. Like, dude, like 50 million Americans have German ancestry. 40 million have Irish ancestry. 30 million have Swedish ancestry. There's like 40, 50 million African Americans. There's 40, 50 million Hispanic Americans. You can't just say it's only one thing, okay? And black culture was a huge part of American culture. Of course it is. You know, the blues, rock music, all this stuff. You can't just be retarded. The Wignats can't resist hate watching you. They're boosting our numbers. Drew, can you make me a mod? I'm philo-Semitic, okay.
Nations were because of Iran, but what he was
What unites them? I think people of different ethnicities can be united behind the same political project, Percy. I'm Greek Cypriot, but I agree with, like vast majority of Australians that Australia is our home and we believe in Australian patriotism and we'll defend this country if we get attacked.
Saying that is right is they're actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump.
Is there, okay, so you're aware of a
Yes.
plot to kill Trump?
Yes, that Iran is paying for. And by the way,
when?
it has been over the last, I'd say, 18 months to 2 years.
In the United States?
In the United States, yes. And
Maybe I'll put on the hitch and stuff after.
let me point out,
Has anyone been arrested?
for the Trump attempted assassination, no, but they are also actively paying Iranian hitmen to murder Mike Pompeo when he was President Trump's first Secretary of State, the first term rather, John Bolton when John Bolton was National Security Advisor to President Trump, and a guy named Brian.
Ted's going to agree. I mean, Tucker's going to agree with that. So it's probably not worth bringing up Pompeo and John Bolton because Tucker's going to agree with Iran trying to assassinate them.
Hook, who was Assistant Secretary of State.
Right.
During the Biden
Wait,
administration.
hold on. Can we go back to Donald Trump because he's
No,
the president?
no,
No, it's a big deal.
Yeah, Miha's correct. Drew is unironically more nationalist than most pure Anglo-Australian. Dude, go to the University of Queensland. Seriously, if you go to the University of Queensland, half the white Anglo kids are communists who don't even identify as Australian. And I'm more nationalist than them. So it's just retarded to be like, oh, like if you're not genetically pure Aryan, you're not national. Just stop being retarded, dude.
Deal. What do you mean? When no one has been arrested for these assassination attempts on Trump.
Yes.
They've hired hitmen. How do we know that?
All right, let me break it down. People have been arrested. So the reason I brought up Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook, who are under active assassination attempts because of their service in the first Trump administration. Under the Biden
Well, they
administration.
say that. I've never seen any evidence of it.
Can I give you the evidence?
Well, let's just stick with
Great comment, Pickles. Thank you, man.
Trump.
No, because these are interrelated. So let me make a bloody point. Under the Biden administration, the State Department was spending $2 million a month providing security for Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook. And they did arrest Iranian hitmen at John Bolton's apartment complex who rented, I think, the apartment next to him and were actively trying to assassinate him.
Holy shit. I didn't even actually know that the Iranians got that close to assassinating Bolton. That's crazy. By the way, guys, we've got 40 live viewers on the stream. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like on the Drew Pavlis show. It helps us reach more people. Leave a like on the YouTube video.
And they went and arrested them. So yes, they caught Iranian hitmen. Now, it so happens Iran's not very good at it. And so they are actively trying. And in fact,
But what about Trump? He's the president. If there's a plot to kill Trump by the Iranians,
okay, so
that's
you
a
dispute
huge
that the
deal.
Iranians are trying to kill Trump?
Of course. I mean, that's the most important question. The prime minister of Israel just said there have been 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump by the Iranians. And I think it's a very fair question. Maybe you disagree to ask, what are you talking about?
Okay. And I agree with you that he misspoke.
So there weren't those 2 attempts?
There were 2 attempts, but the clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the other guy on the golf course
So
were
what
not
were the 2
connected to the
attempts?
Iranians. That's the part that he misspoke. But by the way, when you speak all the time, occasionally, what he said that was accurate is that Iran is actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump and his paid hitmen.
Okay, but right, okay, that's fine.
And he was
But where
conflating it with the 2 attempts.
I understand. But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where's that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has and the public. I mean, we had multiple testimonies. I can send you
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do?
Would you have John Bolton on the stream? Sure, I would. I don't think he'd come on the Drew Pavlis show, but yeah, I would.
To kill Trump?
We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
In the United States?
Yes. And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right. But I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now. We should have a nationwide dragnet on this and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
If they're trying to assassinate our president?
They have been for 2 years.
Then
They
why
are
are we at
enemies.
war with them?
Well, we are trying to...
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're trying to murder...
The use of nuclear weapons...
Whatever
that's part
it
of the
takes.
problem of...
So what do you mean? You don't seem to take the allegation seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
Can I ask something?
Damn, Tucker suddenly, all of a sudden, wants to nuke Tehran.
I mean this sincerely. So, all right, 20 years ago, you were... I think it's fair to say, in the interventionist world, you were a vocal defender of the Iraq War.
I was a promoter of the Iraq War.
And you've now, and I think you think you were mistaken. I think you were mistaken. That's okay. Look, people change and learn, and that's part of the journey of being human. Your views have moved, though.
Get Dick Cheney on as well. I agree. Yeah.
My view.
Yeah. Tucker was against the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, but suddenly he's talking about nuking Tehran over Trump. Do I want a popular uprising in Iran to change the regime there? I do actually. I do.
They've gone way too far
But I think it should be initiated by the Iranian people. I don't think there should ever be boots on the ground.
the other end. And so
I'm
I'm
totally
saying
confused.
why.
I'm saying, hold on. Wait, this is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had. I'm saying if it's true that Iran is trying to murder Trump, we need to move militarily against Iran immediately. That's
Drew, get Ben Roberts-Smith on. Okay, dude. Holy shit.
not isolationism. That's the most. That's a call to violence, which I am calling for. If we believe that Iran is trying to murder our president, we need to strike Iran.
Okay, but
And then
isolationists
you're-
say things like, well, then just nuke them, which is what you just
Okay,
said.
okay.
It's just kind of a
because
weird...
I'm upset because I'm taking you seriously. You don't take your own statements
I
seriously.
take my statements very seriously.
So I've asked you, where's the evidence this is true? And you said, well, they're trying to assassinate Brian Hook or something, which I'm against, by the way. I'm against hurting any American, period, no matter.
So you dispute that they're trying to murder
I'm not disputing
Hook,
it at all.
and Bolton?
I'm not
I mean,
disputing
they
it at all.
literally arrested the hitman with Bolton.
I don't know why that's even relevant. I'm asking about the president of the United States.
Wait, it's not relevant that Iran
not
hired
relevant.
hitmen to murder cabinet members in Trump's administration. That doesn't go to
I've
how
already
credible is
said
it that they're
I'm
willing to spend money to do
totally
that.
opposed to that. It's awful. I am against killing anybody, actually, and
Okay, I'm
especially foreign government. Okay. I'm asking about your allegation and the Prime Minister of Israel's allegation that is
And let me
that
be clear,
Iran
I'm
is trying to
emphatically for
murder the
killing our enemies.
president.
Killing terrorists is a good thing. Killing people who are trying to murder Americans is a good thing. Because if you're America first, you want to protect Americans. So killing Osama bin Laden was a fantastic
But you don't
day
really
for the
believe
world.
that they're trying to murder Trump, or
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Then why aren't you calling for military action against Iran right now?
Because they're not very effective. In terms of hitmen, their hitmen are not very effective. I do think...
Oh, so they're hitmen, but not the bad kind, the efficient kind.
No, they're
what are you
just,
saying?
they're a weak country who is on its knees, and I think we need to...
Then why are we so afraid of them? Why are they the biggest threat if they're a weak country that's on its knees?
Because they're
I'm trying to keep track.
They're trying to develop...
It's hard. Listen, I'm actually against Tucker's position, but he sort of runs around Ted Cruz because Ted Cruz is a bit of like a slimy politician. So he runs circles around Ted Cruz. Unfortunately, I'm literally against Tucker's position, but he's running circles around Ted. It's a shame.
Be a little less snarky.
I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
They're trying
Do you think the USA and UK screwed up big time when they meddled in Iran in the early 50s? Yeah, sure.
to develop nuclear weapons. They are close to developing nuclear weapons. And even a weak country with a nuclear weapon. Look, I believe there is a very real possibility if the Ayatollah develops a nuclear weapon that he would detonate it either in Tel Aviv or New York or Los Angeles. And that would be utterly catastrophic. And I
That's
don't
for
know what the
sure.
chances are of that. Let me compare and contrast Iran to North Korea.
Wait, can I ask one last question
Sure.
about trying to
You
kill
can
the,
ask
the
any-
president? You sincerely believe, you promise, that right now the Iranian government is trying to murder our
Yes,
president.
yes.
You sincerely believe right now.
Absolutely.
And yet you are not calling for military action against the government that's trying to murder our president. Can you explain that?
I don't think they're very effective. I do think we should, by the way, America is
You're willing to take that risk?
I think we should protect the president
Drew, get a nuclear scientist on. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we should take out our enemies.
Well, aren't
Israel
they,
is doing that right now.
but aren't they? Why would we outsource
And by
it
the
to
way,
Israel if
your
they're
first
trying
question
to?
was, why are you
would
for
Israel
regime
do it?
change? That's a pretty good example of why I'm for regime change.
Okay, so you're saying we should just go in and take out the government of Iran. Why
No.
would we outsource it to Israel if they're trying to murder our president? Okay, you sound like the isolationist.
What I'm saying on any military judgment is there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis of what are the risks versus what are the benefits. In this instance, I think it is enormously in America's interest to do what Israel is doing right now: take out Iran's senior military leadership and take out their nuclear capacity. That is benefiting America, and it is a good risk-reward. I would oppose invading Iran and putting boots on the ground to topple the government. If the risk got severe enough, I would support that, but I think the relative risk is not severe enough to justify that step at this time. What I would absolutely oppose under any circumstances is invading Iran and then staying and trying to turn them into a democracy. And part of where Iraq really went off the rails is not only did we topple someone who was fighting radical Islamic terrorists, who was a bad guy, but then we tried the vision of interventionists. It actually overlaps with the vision of a lot of Democrats. Let's go promote democracy in the world.
I agree.
And it is our military's job to kill the bad guys, to defend America. It's not their job to defend international norms. It's not their job. So I have zero desire for the U.S. military to turn Iran into Switzerland. Look, would it be nice if they suddenly became Switzerland? Sure. If I could wave a magic wand, great. But I'm not going to send your kids or my kids to be in front of guns to go make that happen.
Well, bless you for that. I think that is the lesson that I learned from Iraq. I promoted that war. Apparently, unlike you, I was dumber. And I think that you just articulated the main lesson of it, which is it's hard to do that, and we're not good at it.
But I will, yes, and so we are agreeing on that. I will say
Vehemently agreeing.
as a corollary, that doesn't mean that horrible evil dictators are okay. And going back to Reagan and the Cold War, we have lots of weapons. I am happy to highlight the brutality, the oppression, the human rights abuses of regimes, even though I don't want to invade them, because I think the bully pulpit of American leadership is really powerful. And I think dictatorships are terrified. So I've spent 13 years in the Senate. One of the things I do frequently is highlight dissidents in Iran and North Korea. And
Mary Poppins, it's interesting to see your age group so invested in geopolitics like you do on X. Well done. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mary Poppins.
China, in Venezuela, people are being tortured. Miriam Ibrahim in Sudan, who was sentenced.
Yeah, look, Tucker found literally the perfect person to argue this stuff because he found a Christian evangelical Zionist, and they're not going to make good arguments for this stuff. I think if I was going up against Tucker, I think I could make a much better argument.
To 100 lashes, and then to be killed for the crime of being Christian. To Miriam Ibrahim in Sudan, who was
Would you have supported the Iraq War in 2002? Do you think, Drew, had you been... Listen, I was 3 years old when it happened. I can see, obviously I'm a hawkish guy. I can see the pitfalls of that. Maybe I might have fallen for it. The difference is I would never have supported... The things that really fucked up the situation was stuff like de-Baathification, where they literally removed every single person from the government, and the country just collapsed into total chaos. There was literally no even administration. So, listen, I think I can certainly see the pitfalls. I can see the pitfalls. My take is that, honestly, in the early 90s, they should have taken out Saddam Hussein during the Gulf War, when they won the Gulf War.
Was sentenced.
Do you think U.S. troops should be sent to defend Taiwan and South Korea if they get invaded? I mean, there are literally American troops on the DMZ, on the demarcation line in Korea right now. Their job is to be a tripwire. If North Korea attacks the DMZ, they're going to be attacking American soldiers. There will be a war straight away. America will be involved in that war. So American troops are defending South Korea right now, actually, as we speak. Yeah, I agree, Miha, because, listen, my arguments wouldn't be about religious stuff. I would just basically say, listen, I think Israel's existence benefits the West because the opponents of Israel almost universally are Islamists and communists who hate the West, and what they're trying to do to Israel is what they would do to us if they were to be victorious. So I think that's my argument. That's what I would say to Tucker. I wouldn't be making arguments about, arguments in Genesis and all this stuff. Drew, you pro napalm as well as nukes? I'm not. What are you talking about, napalm, dude? I don't like napalm against civilians. Of course not.
To 100 lashes, and then to be killed for the crime of being a Christian. And I repeatedly went to the Senate floor and shined a light on the government of Sudan. It was corrupt. It was evil. I practically begged Barack Obama, say her name. Ultimately,
I felt that way with the J6 prisoners.
Look, yes. And
oh my God. Tucker comparing the J6 prisoners to the government of Sudan, like killing Christians. Amazing.
as I do frequently, is highlight dissidents in Iran and North Korea and China. In Venezuela, people are being tortured. Miriam Ibrahim in Sudan, who was sentenced to 100 lashes and then to be killed for the crime of being a Christian. And I repeatedly went to the Senate floor and shined a light on the government of Sudan. It was corrupt. It was evil. I practically begged Barack Obama, say her name. Ultimately,
I felt that way with the J6 prisoners.
Look, yes. Look, there is power to speaking out. And ultimately, Obama never did say her name. He would not say her name. Ultimately, there was enough international condemnation. The government of Sudan let her go. And so she was not executed. And I met her. So she had a 2-year-old son, Martin, and she gave birth to a little girl named Maya. And she was in leg irons in prison, waiting for the death sentence. They were not going to kill her until she gave birth. And they told her, we will not kill you if you will renounce Jesus. And she refused. And I met her. She was in D.C. speaking at a conference after she was released, obviously. And she's a tiny woman, a small woman. I asked her, I said, when you were in that prison cell with your kids, how did you have the strength not to just get into despair? I mean, I've never been threatened with murder unless I renounce my faith. And she just said to me with a real peacefulness, she said, Jesus was with me. And thankfully, you and I have not faced that circumstance. But I do think there is a responsibility.
There's still time.
There is, and I hope we don't. And actually, I'll use another example. John McCain, who you and I disagreed with on a lot of issues. I respected and admired.
Yeah, honestly, maybe if we've got a mod in the chat who can block, maybe just block Greatest Guy at this point. He's just being a troll.
Him for his service and time as a prisoner of war. I think his policies, I disagreed with vehemently and fought against them. But the man fought for America, and he was thrown in prison, and he was tortured by Vietnam, and he was given the opportunity to be released early. And he turned it down because he thought it would be dishonorable to leave before his fellow servicemen and women. And
we've got a couple hundred people watching on Twitter, which is a lot bigger than my YouTube audience. But I am trying really hard to build up the YouTube audience. So if you're watching on YouTube, please leave a like, guys. That's where I really want to build most of my audience.
I first got here.
There were no women there, but
okay, man, you're right. When I first got here, McCain hated my guts, and he actually referred to me and Rand as wacko birds.
I remember.
I have up on the shelf, I have a baseball cap that a grassroots supporter gave me with a picture of Daffy Duck and labeled wacko birds, which I liked and laughed when. But when he did that, I went to the Senate floor and I gave a speech praising John McCain. And it was the day he'd attacked me publicly. And it happened to be, it was the 40th anniversary of his release from the Hanoi Hilton. And I was conscious, I just talked about what a privilege it is to serve with someone who suffered for his country, who served. And I didn't get into where we disagreed on policy on that speech. I just said, the man is an American hero and I'm proud to serve with him. But that was...
Agree with Ted Cruz on John McCain being a hero for, The guy had the opportunity to be released early, and he literally refused to be released early without his comrades who were also being tortured. Good on him. That's an amazing strength of character.
Meant to be a statement also that if you attack me, I'm going to praise you not for things that are not praiseworthy. I disagree.
What would happen to the West if Israel disappeared, Drew? Just Hamas being in charge of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Hamas destroying all this Christian heritage in Jerusalem, like crazy jihadists being a lot stronger across the Middle East and being in a much stronger position to attack the West. That's what would happen, dude. It's pretty bad.
Agree with you. I will not be shy about saying it. But for things that are praiseworthy,
I remember that. It was 2013.
Yeah.
And I felt the same way. I went to his cell at the Hanoi Hilton, and
oh wow,
I agree with you about McCain. I just want to end by asking you specifically about what's going to happen next in Iran and what should happen next. So you've called for regime change. You said you don't favor the U.S. military participating in any kind of regime change. You said you don't think.
Someone says I need a mod. Yeah, I've actually got a team of mods. I think unfortunately then they're not really around right now. I'll try to organize that for the next stream.
And bless you for saying this, that the U.S. military should try and turn it into Belgium.
Yeah,
thank God. But there's a third option where it turns into Syria, where it's this open wound and it causes massive migration and further destroys Europe, as Syria has.
Yeah.
And that's a huge cost, and where lots of people die and just get murdered in Syria. Again, are you worried about that?
Sure. And listen, that lots of bad things can happen. But going back to what we talked about, the principle of defending America, I agree with President Trump that Iran with a nuclear weapon is an unacceptable risk to America, and we need to stop it. I agree with President Trump, and I'll make a point.
But he's not for regime change.
He's not. So he and I disagree. Look, I think he thinks it would be better. He has not said he's for it. And you know what? Look, it is consequential when the President of the United States says, I'm for regime change. So I understand why he hasn't. What he has said is he's drawn a red line and said, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon, and the only acceptable outcome is complete dismantlement. So they have centrifuges. They're enriching uranium right now. They're trying to develop a nuclear weapon. He said they must have.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hayes is right. Like, some of these TikTok guys would literally be, they'd be getting attacked in a home invasion, and they think it'd be mean to fight back.
Complete dismantlement. I led 52 senators, Republican senators, in a letter where we said we agree with President Trump. That's the red line, complete dismantlement. I agree with President Trump. I agree with him supporting Israel, taking out Iran's military leadership, taking out their nuclear capability. And I'll point out, look, if you look the first term, I am hard-pressed to think of a single foreign policy decision Donald Trump made the first term that I disagree with. And that's not entirely accidental, because I spent a lot of time the first term in the Oval Office with him. And what happened in the first term often is you would have in the administration, you had interventionists in the administration, you had isolationists, and they disagreed. They would fight within the administration. And often what it would give is an opportunity for me to come in and say, hey, there's a middle path here that President Trump agreed with frequently. And it's worth noting, in the first term, he most assuredly was not an isolationist. Look, he took out General Soleimani, which I emphatically agree with. And in fact, I introduced a resolution that we voted on the Senate floor commending him for taking out General Soleimani, who was the leader of the IRGC and who was responsible.
Taking out Soleimani was a great idea. That was honestly good on Trump for taking out Soleimani. 1 second, guys. I'm just going to blow my nose again. Sorry, I've got a cold. It's annoying having a bit of a cold. Yeah, I'm not really. I'm not like an Iranian monarchist or anything.
For killing over 600 American servicemen and women. When Trump came in,
Percy asked, how could Islam seriously challenge American world hegemony? Are you happy with stuff like constant terrorist attacks in Europe? Are you happy with terrorist attacks like 9/11, dude?
ISIS had a caliphate that had grown up under Obama that was about the size of the state of Indiana. And Trump came in and utterly...
Killing Soleimani also revealed the weakness of the regime, so it was an important piece of the puzzle of their downfall. Yeah, absolutely.
He decimated them. He killed the terrorists, took away their caliphate, and defeated them. And he also took out Baghdadi, the head of ISIS. I mean, those are not the actions of an isolationist, but at the same time...
I don't know what isolationist. It's just a slur designed to control. I mean, I've never been an isolationist. I don't even know what that means.
Okay, Rand Paul was my colleague. Rand is an isolationist. And Tucker, you've become one, and I don't mean it as a slur. You consistently say, you have said... Actually, I want to read from your newsletter, because if you ask what an isolationist is, your newsletter a couple of days ago, you wrote... Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and we're hoping to get back to the negotiating table. We will see. There are several people in leadership in Iran that will not be coming back, Trump said, following the strikes.
Right.
It's worth taking a step back and wondering how any of this helps the United States. We can't think of a single way. Okay, that to me is the essence of isolationism. And let me just ask you, when the Ayatollah chants death to America, I believe him. Did you not believe him? Did you think he doesn't mean it when he says death to America?
Well, I think he hates America, for sure. And I'm opposed to that.
And do you think he's willing to act on it? It's not just hate America. He also is leading a country and trying to
under certain circumstances, for sure. So the question is, do you act in a way that makes that more...
Hey, Max, what's your answer to stopping Iran from funding and organizing terrorist attacks against America, the West, and against people across the entire Middle East, which is what they've been doing for the past 30, 40 years? So you say, we can't attack the Iranian government because it'll cause terrorism. Well, what's your answer to stopping them carrying out insane amounts of terrorism across the entire Middle East and the world since the late 70s? Dude, since the 80s, right? Since they got in power. Look at what they did in 1994 in Buenos Aires. Iran and Hezbollah, they blew up the Amir Jewish Community Center. They killed 85 people. Just random Jewish civilians in Argentina for no reason. What's your answer to stopping Iran from carrying out terrorist attacks like that? It's not Swindon. I'm not with any relationship. I'm just Drew.
More or less likely. And that's a tough call. It's something that you can debate. One of the ways you shut down debate is by calling people names like
Yeah, Gaddafi. Libya was already a shithole under Gaddafi. True. And guys, yeah, no relationship for me at the moment.
isolationists pretending they're like pro-Nazi or something, or as you did, claiming I'm an anti-Semite. That's not a way to get to a solution or have a rational conversation. That's the way to make people be quiet. And I'm against that.
Okay, so if you don't like the label isolationist, how would you look? Rand, and I served with Rand. Rand is a friend of mine, but Rand opposes every military action in every circumstance.
I don't oppose every military. This whole thing is infantile, and you know that it is. It's a way to call people names and make them be
Give me another name. If you don't like that, I'm not trying to have you be quiet. We've been talking an hour and a half. I'm asking if you don't like the name isolationist, how would you describe it?
I would describe myself in the same way you falsely described yourself in this conversation.
Falsely.
Hey Max, you say that it's Israel's fault, the illegal actions and breaking international law. That's why Iran had to go to Buenos Aires in 1994 and work with Hezbollah to blow up a Jewish community center. Does that make much sense? I don't really think that makes much sense, does it? Oh, wow. Israel has breached international law. Therefore, Iran gets to just go out and, I don't know, like blow up a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires. Iran's allowed to just shoot schoolgirl protesters in the head. Doesn't really make much sense, Max.
Yes,
so where did I say false?
You say
that's just such third world cope. I know this is big third world cope where all these guys, there's all these guys who are like, the only reason why our countries are dysfunctional shitholes is because of Israel. No, sorry, dude. Sorry. There's actually a lot of dysfunction in your own politics due to your cultural problems. You have to take ownership of that. You can't just say, like Israel is the only reason why the Middle East has problems. That's fucking retarded. Israel's the only reason my country has problems. And then you look at the country and you look at Yemen and half the people are addicted to, to like that cocaine-like drug that they chew on, cat. I kind of think there would be less terrorism if Israel stopped oppressing the West Bank. So true, dude. That's not, dude. Do you understand? Most terrorists, it's not about they just want a two-state solution. They want a caliphate. They want to rule the world. That's the problem. It's a theological mission for them. It's not just if we do a couple suicide bombing attacks, we're gonna get a two-state solution. These guys don't care about a two-state solution. They want a caliphate. They want to rule the world.
the U.S. Senator, thank you. Actually, and if taking out the head of ICE,
no,
are you now? Because you told me things are going once the shooting starts. That's my only point. And calling people
within the administration,
right?
It's worth taking a step back and wondering how any of this helps the United States. We can't think of a single way.
Why do I think Tucker Carlson is a fascist? Dude, he's literally basically hinted on stream that he thinks that the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II was a bad thing because he thinks it led to transgenderism and mass migration and stuff. So that's why he's a fascist, dude.
Okay.
Max, this is mental illness. Netanyahu's been dragging the US into pointless Middle East war since the 90s. Dude, he first got to power in 1996.
That, to me, is the essence of isolationism. And let me just ask you, when the Ayatollah chants death to America, I believe him. Do you not believe him? Do you think he doesn't mean it when he says death to America?
Well, I think he hates America. For sure. And I'm opposed to that.
And do you think he's willing to act on it? It's not just hate America. He also is leading a country and trying to develop a nuclear weapon. Under certain circumstances,
for sure. So the question is, do you act in a way that makes that more or less likely? And that's a tough call. It's something that you can debate. One of the ways you shut down debate is by calling people names like isolationists, pretending they're like pro-Nazi or something, or as you did, claiming I'm an anti-Semite.
The plan to topple 7 regimes came from. So fucking dumb, dude. So fucking dumb. Hey, Max, why are there all these terrorist groups and shithole dictatorships trying to attack Israel constantly? Why don't you ever ask them to stop doing what they're doing?
Right. All right. That's not a way to get to a solution or have a rational conversation. That's a way to make people be quiet. And I'm against that. And
okay, so if you don't like the label isolationist, how would you... Look, Rand, and I served with Rand. Rand is a friend of mine, but Rand opposes
not only-
every military action in every
Of course, I
circumstance.
don't oppose every military. This whole thing is infantile, and you know that it is. It's a way. It's a way to call people
So which
names
of Trump's
and make
military
them
actions
be,
do you support?
and
And you
make
disagree
them-
with them all.
and
I'm
make them be
Give me
quiet.
another name. If you don't like that, I'm not
Let me-
trying to have you be quiet. We've been
I
talking
guess
an hour and a half. I'm
would-
asking, if you don't like the name isolationist, how would you describe it?
I would describe myself in the same way you falsely described yourself in this conversation.
Falsely.
Yes,
So
falsely.
what did I say false?
You said that the only thing that matters in a foreign policy decision is whether it helps the United States.
I didn't say the only, I said the predominant.
That's what I understood.
Okay.
So let me revise what you said and apply it to myself and say the only thing that matters is whether or not it serves the United States. And I feel very stung by what happened in Iraq, if I'm being honest, possibly because unlike you, I guess, I supported it and I saw us get drawn into it in a way that nobody anticipated. And I saw the cost just $3 trillion. And the cost on so many levels to the United States was just so profound. And
We've got such retards in the chat right now.
Really a
like,
mistake.
gosh,
Hey, Max, do you really think Israel tried to get rid of Assad? Israel's whole policy, and I've actually criticized I've criticized the state of Israel for this. I've criticized the Israeli government for this. Their policy in Syria was to keep Assad because they thought Assad was the devil that they knew, and they'd prefer the devil they knew than someone they didn't know. And I actually think that was immoral. I actually think Israel's stance on Syria was immoral because they would prefer Assad be in power than Syrians have an alternative regime that doesn't just slaughter them.
it reminds me of Kaiser Wilhelm in 1914 saying, my men will be back by the time the leaves turn. And of course, that destroyed Christian Europe. So it's like you don't really know where these things are going once the shooting starts. That's my only point. And calling people names, anti-Semite, isolationist, to get them to stop talking is not the way to serve your country. That's all I'm saying.
So look, I'm trying to have a real and serious conversation.
Right.
And look, a lot of this has been contentious. I wish it had not, because as we started out by saying, you and I agree vehemently on 80% of the issues. This discussion is focused on the 20% where we don't. I will say, look, on Iraq, you look at the 2016 presidential campaign where you had 17 Republicans running. If you set Rand aside and his views are on one side, there were only two candidates on that stage that opposed the Iraq war. Me and Donald Trump were the only two. Everyone else thought the Iraq war was a great thing. I think it was a disaster. So you and I agree on that as well. In my view, I think your foreign policy has gone too far. So, I mean, let me ask you, is there a military action Trump has undertaken that you agree with? Because I've not heard anything.
A military, look, I would say it's really simple. I believe in self-defense. That's why
The Pentagon list of countries to invade, that wasn't Israel, dude. That was because the Bush administration was staffed with neoconservatives. It was the post-Berlin Wall fall period. It was the period following the fall of the Berlin Wall. They believed that they could spread democracy everywhere. They were very ideologically motivated. These people obviously went too far. It was an ideological thing. It wasn't Israel.
keep firearms at home. I think it's morally justified to defend yourself, your family, your property, your nation. And so to the extent that you can deter a threat through violence always being the least appealing choice, violence always being, if I can finish, always being a tragedy, I think you can justify the use of violence in self-defense. That is my personal view. And that applies to me and to the country that I live in. Those are my views. That's not an isolationist view. It's not an anti-Israel view. It's not an anti-Semitic view, with apologies. It is, I think, a pretty common sense view. But my problem is that lawmakers in Washington are light on detail with these things, and they speak, as you do, entirely in moral terms. These people are bad. These people are...
I'm not speaking entirely in moral terms. I'm not interested in killing bad guys. I'm interested in killing people who are trying to kill us.
If we had...
That's different. I'm not engaged in morality.
Are you now? Because you told me that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump. And then you
that
said...
is undisputed. There's literally nobody who disputes that fact.
Then why don't you support military action right now against Iran?
We are engaged in military action right now.
Why don't you support offensive military action?
We're bombing the crap out of them. Israel is, and we're supporting them. Israel is.
Okay.
So
why shouldn't the U.S. military defend its own president? I don't understand that.
Look, And it goes back to
Because you don't really believe it's true. That's why.
everyone. Hey, nobody disputes it, Tucker.
I'm
Do you also
disputing it.
did we
I'm
land on the moon? What other conspiracies do you
asking
not
you-
believe? Was 9/11 an inside job? I mean, like
What? So where? I've asked you the names of these people. I've asked
don't
you how
know the
you
names of them.
I believe in self-defense. That's why I keep firearms at home. I think
Almost 50 live
it's
viewers.
morally
Thank you guys. If you want
justified
them, please leave a like on the stream.
to
It helps
defend
people.
yourself,
Please
your
leave a like on the
family, your
stream.
property, your nation. And so to the extent
Sorry,
that
I got
you
I
can
got a text
deter a
message from my
threat through
parents. I was
violence,
responding to the text message.
violence
Sorry, guys.
always being the least appealing choice, violence always being, if I can finish,
Yeah,
always
sure.
being a tragedy, I think you can justify the use of violence in self-defense. That is my personal view. And that applies to me and to the country that I live in. Those are my views. That's not an isolationist view. It's not an anti-Israel view. It's not an anti-Semitic view, with apologies. It is, I think, a pretty common sense view. But my problem is that lawmakers in Washington are light on detail with these things, and they speak, as you do, entirely in moral terms. These people are bad. These people are.
I'm not speaking entirely in moral terms.
Yeah,
I'm not interested in
but
killing
if
bad
we
guys. I'm
had-
interested in killing people who are trying to kill us.
If we had,
That's different. I'm not engaged in morality.
Are you now? Because you
Yes.
told me that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump, and then you
that
said,
is undisputed. There's literally
then why
nobody who
don't
disputes
you?
that.
Then
Tucker believes in self-defense unless you're Ukrainian. Yeah, good point. Good point.
the threat through violence, violence always being the least just to the Semitic view is that lawmakers in Washington are light on detail with these things, and they speak, as you do, entirely in moral terms. These people are bad. These people are.
I'm not speaking entirely in moral terms.
Yeah,
I'm not interested in
but
killing
if
bad
we
guys. I'm
had-
interested in killing people who are trying to kill us.
If we had,
That's different. I'm not engaged in morality.
Are you now? Because you
Yes.
told me that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump, and then you
that
said
is
that,
undisputed.
Drew, you should learn kung fu, channel your power, and learn discipline. Fact.
There's literally
then why
nobody who
don't
disputes
you?
that
Then
fact.
why don't you
And I answered
support
that.
military action
Okay.
right now against Iran?
We are engaged in military action right now.
Why don't you? Why don't you support offensive military action?
We're bombing the crap out of them. Israel is, and we're
We-
supporting them. Israel is.
Okay.
So
Why shouldn't the U.S. military defend its own president? I don't understand that.
look, and it goes back to
Because you don't really believe it's true. That's why.
everyone. Hey, nobody disputes
Holy shit. Tucker's such an annoying guy. Look how mad he makes Ted Cruz. Holy shit.
it, Tucker.
I'm
Do you also,
disputing it.
did we
I'm
land on the
asking-
moon? What other conspiracies do you
asking
not
you-
believe? Was 9/11 an inside job? I mean, like
What? So where? I've asked you the names of these people. I've
I
asked you
don't
how
know the
you
names
know
of the Iranian
information.
hit.
How long do you think this current conflict will last? I don't think much longer because, look, Iran has about 4,000 ballistic missiles in their stockpiles. Israel took out 1,000 on the ground, and they've since launched about 600 or 700, right? So Iran's halfway through their ballistic missile stockpile. How much longer can they even go? Iran doesn't have much more stuff. I mean, Iran doesn't have that many more aces in their sleeve, right?
Man, I
I'm
know
asking-
it because the U.S. military and the intelligence
Max, I'm just responding to Max here. Max, I actually responded to the 7 countries in 5 years thing. I responded to that. I said that's not Israel. That was a neoconservative thing within the Bush administration. It was right after 9/11 happened. Everybody had really heightened emotions. It was straight after 9/11, and it was neoconservatives who ideologically believed in spreading democracy. It wasn't necessarily the Jews or Israel. Okay, it was neoconservatives within the Bush administration that he picked to be part of the Pentagon and be part of his administration.
agencies have testified before Congress repeatedly
And what did they
that
say?
Iran is trying to murder Donald Trump
How?
and has hired hitmen. Do I know the name of the hitmen? No, I'm sorry. And I don't think we do either because we would apprehend them if we knew their names.
Then why don't you take it seriously enough to support killing the Ayatollah in response to protect our president?
I support killing the Ayatollah. I support it. Who's against it? Who's against it? Seriously, he hates America. He wants to kill Americans. So why the fuck would you not support it? That's my opinion.
But you don't. This doesn't even make any sense.
I think PETA is potentially on the money here. I think there's a pretty strong chance that within the next week he might be gone. They're running out of launches, as Tom Klein makes the point.
And you're calling me an isolationist. If I believed that was true, I would support military.
And Pickles LeBlanc is correct here. Israel opposed the Iraq War. They viewed Saddam as a neutered dog. So, okay, here's the thing, right? Max, are you aware of the criticism that Arab leftists and Arab anti-imperialists make from within the Arab world, where they basically say the problem with Israel is that they're supporting all these Arab dictatorships across the place because these Arab dictators won't attack them. So that's the criticism that Arabs make of Israel. A lot of Arab leftists make that criticism. They say, Well, they blame Israel. They say, well, Israel is happy with the Egyptian dictator. They say that Israel was happy with Assad. Israel was happy with Iraq. Honestly, I actually criticize the morality of the state of Israel's foreign policy sometimes when they're happy. Sometimes they're happy to have a dictator in the Middle East because they think that these guys are preferable to jihadists. So Israel, for example, in Syria, Israel thought that Bashar al-Assad was preferable to the Islamists. And I think Bashar al-Assad was one of the worst dictators ever, one of the most evil dictators ever. So I think that's a really immoral stance. So the funny thing is actually Israel, in a lot of countries in the Middle East, actually supports the stability of current regimes. And that's a criticism that all these Arab leftists make. They try to say that the problem with all these regimes is that they're tacitly supported by Israel.
Military action against the government of Iran.
Okay, that's interesting because there is
You
literally
can't kill our president.
all right. Out of 535 members of Congress, I am not aware of one who disputes that Iran is trying to murder Donald J. Trump. That's not even the looniest Democrat doesn't dispute that. So I don't. You're saying if you believed what is, I think, a fact that they are trying
You
to,
think it's a fact?
Yes.
What is the fact exactly?
that they've hired
where
hitmen.
did in the United States?
Yes.
Americans?
Yeah, he's not in Iran, so they haven't hired hitmen.
No, but
in
are they
Iran.
the hitmen American?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you what, and by the way, I'm not the CIA. I'm not the Department of Defense. I'm telling you what
Okay.
they have told us.
I'm not disputing it. I'm merely saying
We are.
that
but
I'm
that's-
not. I'm saying the logic train has a massive hole in it. If you
This is the funny thing as well. You guys are so retarded. Like, we've got Max Hooper saying, oh, Netanyahu endorsed the Iraq War in 2002. Netanyahu was not the prime minister of Israel back in 2002. I'm not sure if you're aware. He was a private citizen, okay? So he was just some guy supporting it. Netanyahu wasn't pulling the strings from fucking, like, I don't know, just being a private citizen in Israel. That's fucking retarded.
you believe that's true, then you should, by definition, support.
Yeah, this is the thing. As Petter points out, there are a lot of neocons and a lot of Israeli politicians who think that the people of the Middle East shouldn't have democracy. And they actually prefer these dictators there because they think that the dictators are more stable. And I don't like that view, okay? So that's the reality of this stuff in the Middle East, right? That's the reality of Israel's policy in the Middle East. Somebody could actually criticize it for being too defensive of these kind of dictatorships around the place. But according to Max Hooper, oh my God, Israel's been plotting to overthrow every dictator in the world everywhere. That's retarded, dude. Like, Israel has actually been very concerned. Like, look at their relations with Egypt and Jordan following the signing of the peace treaty. This is the thing that pisses me off. You get all these guys going, oh, Israel's out of control. You can't, oh my God, Israel's out of control. You can't trust them. They're going to invade every other country in the Middle East. They've had a peace treaty with Egypt and Jordan for decades now. And after the signing of those peace treaties, they don't attack each other. Doesn't that show that they prefer stability?
Or killing the people trying to kill our president, but you don't support that.
Now, Tucker,
so I'm wondering what's going on here.
Tucker, you took offense to the word isolationist, and I genuinely don't mean it as a pejorative. I disagree with it.
Okay, Max, are you aware that Netanyahu was a nobody in 2002? He wasn't the prime minister of Israel when he said that. He was a private citizen, okay? He was not the prime minister of Israel. It's the same. It's literally the same as Tucker Carlson endorsing it in 2002. Both of them were private citizens.
But if you don't like that term, I don't know how else to describe what is a coherent foreign policy that says
I believe
we're surrounded by two giant nations. By the way, isolationism has long been a school of foreign policy.
Oh my God, fuck. Okay, I'll play the video. But I don't think you fucking understand, Max. He wasn't the prime minister of Israel when he did this, okay? Hang on, I'm trying to put on the ad. I'm aware that he thought that, I'm aware Netanyahu endorsed the Iraq war, but he was not the prime minister of Israel when he did that. He was a fucking private citizen. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the fucking video. I have to turn off ad block or some shit. Hang on. My chat's so retarded sometimes. Fuck off, Max. No need to be such a fucking rude cunt about it. Oh, you were cum staying in your dad's undies. Dude, you were fucking, Max, you were a fucking 20-year-old pipsqueak when the Iraq war happened, okay, dude? You're not like the fucking all-seeing god of the universe because you thought that the Iraq war was bad in 2003. Cool, dude. Good on you. I know that Netanyahu thought that Saddam Hussein should be removed from power in 2002. Guess what? Netanyahu was not the prime minister of Israel. He was a fucking private citizen at the time. Fucking hell. Okay, I've got it. I'm going to put it on the stream.
Well before September 11th. In 1981, the late Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, dispatched the Israeli Air Force on a pre-dawn raid that destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor.
I've seen this video before.
at
I don't know why
Iraq.
you think I'm fucking shocked by this. I saw this video.
This
6 years ago
probably took
because I've had,
place
guess what? I've had
months
access to the internet
away
since I was fucking 12. I've seen this
from
video.
Saddam's
I saw this video
ability
fucking
to
20 years ago.
assemble the critical mass of plutonium for the first
Former,
atomic
do you
bomb.
see this? Hey,
or more
hey,
than one.
Max, do you notice how it says former Israeli Prime Minister 1996 to 1999? When he testified to Congress in 2002, he had not been Prime Minister of Israel for at least 3 years, okay? So he wasn't controlling America. He was a private citizen who had an opinion. A lot of people had pro-Iraq war opinions in 2002. Guess what? Tucker Carlson did as well. Fucking hell.
And today, the United States must destroy the same regime because a nuclear-armed Saddam will place
Hello,
the
Maxwell, how you
security
doing?
of our entire world at risk.
54 live viewers. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining.
And
in.
make no
Please
mistake
like
about it,
on the
if
video, it'd be great if you can
and
leave a like.
once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons. 2 decades ago, it
No, Max, you're actually incorrect because Iraq did have a nuclear weapons program at a certain point in history, which I will literally show you on Wikipedia. In the early 1970s, Saddam Hussein ordered the creation of a clandestine nuclear weapons program. Iraq's weapons of mass destruction programs were assisted by a wide variety of firms and governments in the 1970s and 80s. As part of Project 922, Iraq built chemical weapons facilities such as laboratories. German firms sent 1,000 tons of precursors of mustard gas, sarin, and tear gas. Oh my God, holy shit. Like, America literally transferred Iraq advanced computers that were then used in the Iraq nuclear program. Because unfortunately, the US supported Iraq during the Iran-Iraq war, which was a disaster. It was a really bad idea. Really, really bad idea. Yeah, Psychonaut, my family were supportive of the monarchists. They were never for the communists. My family has always been conservative. So my family in Cyprus, they supported EOKA during during the sort of anti-British colonial resistance. They were part of the Greek conservative, pro-Greek Orthodox church sort of movement. So yeah, my family were very much against the communists in Cyprus and in Greece. And Pickles LeBlanc makes the point: Saddam did use chemical weapons, which is a weapons of mass destruction against which is WMD against Kurds. I know Saddam Hussein invaded multiple countries as well. You know, the only problem is that they should have taken him out in the Gulf War. There shouldn't have ever been a war in 2003 because they should have taken him out in the Gulf War. But Pickles LeBlanc, Saddam invaded Iran for no reason. Like, it's not like Iran was invading Iraq to create the Shiite megastate. Saddam tried to exploit the chaos of the Iranian Revolution to then invade Iran. So it wasn't really a defense. Iraq wasn't fighting a defensive war there. Iraq was fighting an aggressive war. And even though I was fully against the Iranian regime, I still think Iraq, Saddam Hussein fighting Iran was also bad, right? Hello, Easy Money. How you going, man? Hey, Max, are you aware of Stuxnet? Are you aware of all the things that Israel has done to make Iran stop, to try stop Iran's nuclear program? I'll show you this, dude. The reason why they haven't recently got it is because they use Stuxnet. Guys, thank you for watching the live stream. If you're watching the Drew Pavlou Show live, please leave a like. I'd appreciate it. It helps us reach more people. We've got 44 likes on the stream. It'd be great if people can leave a like. Hey, Max, look at this. This is why Iran didn't get a nuclear weapon earlier. This might be why. Stuxnet is a malicious computer worm first uncovered in 2010 and thought to have been in development since at least 2005. Stuxnet targets supervisory control and data acquisition systems and is believed to be responsible for causing substantial damage to the Iran nuclear program. Yeah, it's really the Bush administration's incompetence that caused Iraq to fail. It's unfortunate. They fucked up everything. Dude, Israel's coming for Turkey and Pakistan next. No, that's mentally ill. That's mentally ill. That's not true. Israel has peace treaties with Jordan and Egypt and has never attacked them since they've had a peace treaty. Also, I'm not going to cry for fucking Turkey and Pakistan. I'm joking. I just vow. The expectation was that Kazakhstan, which was overwhelmingly Arab, would support Iraq as liberators, but a lot of people unexpectedly didn't give a shit about Baathism and started with the IRA. Baathism was a mental ill ideology. I'll quickly show you. This is so this was what my family supported in Cyprus when they were living in Cyprus. So this is the ideology. It's Greek nationalism, anti-British sentiment, anti-communism, religious conservatism. It's funny though, because my family were all pro-British. I mean, my family were all like the British. They wanted Cyprus to be independent, but they still had a lot of affection for the British, I think. But my grandma's brother fought for Ioka and died. He was killed. I'll try find, and then it's sad because then they became Ioka B, and Ioka B was like actually full blown fascist and evil. They were not part of that. It was the Ioka B was after my grandmother's brother fought for the first part of Ioka, and then he was killed fighting for them, and then Ioka B was formed much later. What's Turkish troubles? I want to show you guys what my grandma's brother was killed in. Secular democratic Persia would be very beautiful. So my grandma's brother actually was arrested for smuggling dynamite when he was a teenager, and he was arrested by the British and held in a prison cell, which is very funny. I think it was the crisis of 1963 that he got killed. Oh, so this is what he got killed in, the Battle of Tilira. So this was my grandmother's brother was killed in literally this Battle of Tilira. Israeli pilots against the Soviets. Damn, I need to look at that. What one are you talking about? Oh, Operation Rimon. Wow, that's amazing. I'm gonna look that up. Ekrem Imamoglu. Listen, I'm anti-Erdogan. If this guy's a lot better, that'd be good. Yeah, Ikram. Yeah, he's a lot better. He's a lot better. The guy who's the mayor of Istanbul, I've read about him. Yeah, he's a lot better. He's a lot better than Erdogan. Drew comes from a long line of people who caused the government headaches. So factually true. How did Cyprus join the EU when half the country does not belong to it? Listen, that's a good question. Cyprus was allowed into the EU before the resolution of the Cyprus dispute, and that was very controversial. I think it's good that Cyprus was allowed into the EU. Turkey sent aircraft carriers to the Mediterranean Sea. They're part of the force resistant to Israel. Max, they're not doing anything. Would you get a Turkish hair transplant, Drew? I don't need one, dude. My hair's nice. So this is actually the battle. This is the battle my grandma's brother, my grandma's brother, so my great uncle was killed in. August 6th, between units of the Cypriot National Guard and Turkish Cypriot armed groups in Kokina. The areas under the jurisdiction of the Republic of Cyprus included a number of large and fortified enclaves inhabited by the island's Turkish Cypriot minority, which had receded into defensive positions around Turkish-controlled villages following a major outbreak of civil unrest. And listen, there were obviously, unfortunately, a lot of Greek chauvinists who were killing Turkish Cypriots, and I think that's horrible. I'm against intercommunal violence. Okay. I agree. Ukraine should be able to join. Yeah, it's very cringe. It's very cringe how there are a lot of Turks living in Germany who vote for Erdogan, and they're literally the guys who help Erdogan keep winning. It's fucking mental. So my family wanted Enosis, which is the union of Greece and Cyprus. It's a union of Greece and Cyprus. It's a bit of a pipe dream, but that's what my family supported back in the day, in like the 30s. Yeah, the Russian diaspora keeps voting for Putin as well. Listen, I'm very against like fucking nationalized diasporas like that. When they're supporting dictatorships that are against us, like Putin and Erdogan and stuff like that, then that makes me wonder why they're in their country. I'm pretty sure Kokina was, yeah, I think he got, wow, yeah, he literally got, I think he was shot by a sniper. Wow, Turkish Sabre jets came in to drop napalm bombs on the Cypriots. Yeah, brutal. So that's northern Cyprus, as you can see. Interesting. I actually would love to. I want to film a video in northern Cyprus. It would be interesting. But yeah, my family were right-wing anti-communists in Cyprus. Believe it or not. Yeah, Megali idea is nationalist LARPing, and it just leads to war, and it's just very unrealistic and dumb, to be honest. I don't think. Listen, Gnosis can't happen today. It can't happen today because the island's too divided. Stuxnet stopped Iran's nuclear program. Did you understand that, Left Heart? Yeah, literally, dude. Literally, this is the annoying thing. Like Max will be like, "Don't you realize they've been saying that Iran will have nuclear bombs for decades?" And it's like, yeah, dude. It's because the reason that they haven't got it yet is because Israel and America sabotaged it with Stuxnet and a number of other things. Drew, you will never defeat the armed forces of Pakistan. Okay, dude, good on you. Beautiful. When are you going to have a second appearance on the Alex Jones show? Listen, it got rescheduled because obviously things are very chaotic right now with the news. Hopefully I'll be able to do it maybe next week or the week after or something like that. Yeah, it does seem that Pakistan performed better. That is true. The Magali idea is basically you reconquer Istanbul, Constantinople, and then the entire Turkish coastline. Yeah, that's not happening. It's like bong hit stuff. Moldova should also be able to join as well as Georgia and Armenia, but all of Russian influence in those countries rooted out. Yeah, I agree. Georgia, Armenia, Moldova, Ukraine, they should all be welcomed into the EU. But, obviously in countries like Georgia, Armenia, Moldova, you have to root out the Russian influence first. A number of other things, grenades into your car and the casual spray of Uzi fire. I support Israel killing Iranian nuclear scientists. I don't want them to get an atomic bomb. That's life. That's reality. If you don't want your enemies to get an atomic bomb to nuke you, sometimes you have to do bad things. It's obviously not morally nice to take out Iranian nuclear scientists working on nuclear weapons. It's not morally nice. But sometimes you have to defend yourself. Otherwise, the end result is genocide. What state would sit there on its hands as Iran, which is pledged to the genocidal destruction of Israel, is allowed to get an atomic bomb to then genocide Israel? Which state would do that? Thoughts on Grok and Elon planning to change Grok because of the bias? Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? Elon's so sad because Grok won't tweet like Grok isn't like right wing, like, I don't know, cat turd or whatever. So he's really pissed off. He wants Grok to be more like cat turd. Very funny, actually. Damn, it's good. We've had 50 live viewers. Thank you, guys. If you're watching live, please leave a like on the stream. Helps us reach more people. It's very helpful. Yeah, exactly as Peter says, war is ugly. I wish there was never any war. But listen, if a country that's going to genocide you is building nuclear weapons, you're going to have to take out the nuclear scientists. That's unfortunately the reality. War's not pretty, but sitting there and doing nothing as they get a nuclear bomb to then attack you with, that's not an option. Yeah, can someone explain why they're enriching uranium to 60% purity? Maybe Max can explain that to us. Why does Iran need 60% pure uranium? Easy money. Who also identifies as a Drew Pavlou Democrat? Salute. Yeah, can someone explain to me why Iran needs to do 90% enriched uranium? Just explain that to us. Why? For peaceful reasons, of course. Guys, this is the thing, right? Iran has carried out terrorism across the Middle East for like 50 years, and that's without them having a nuclear program. Imagine what they'd be able to do if they had the protection of a nuclear program. They would then think they could do anything because they could then go insane across the entire Middle East, and then if anyone tried to attack them back, they would say, "Oh, we've got a nuke." So then this is basically their attempt to make themselves invulnerable while they carry out constant fucking blackmail terrorism. It's a very white-pilled, hope-pilled thing for AI that you seemingly can't just blatantly rig them into propaganda machines. The South Africa thing seemed to prove it would rather self-destruct. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny, Petter. Greatest guy's using Bad Empanada as some kind of golden standard. No one likes Bad Empanada here, dude. Greatest guy is obviously a Bad Empanada supporter. It's so cringe. Imagine being a supporter of that fucking creepy guy. On 12 June 2025, the International Atomic Energy Agency found Iran non-compliant with its nuclear obligation for the first time in 20 years. I wonder what's that about, Max? Can you explain that to us, maybe? Because Iran has already been waging war and terrorism across the Middle East for 50 years. If they get nuclear bombs, they will escalate their activities because they'll think that they're invulnerable. When the US assassinated Iranian Quds Force commander Qasem Soleimani, Iran responded by declaring it would no longer observe any JCPOA limits on uranium enrichment capacity levels or stockpile size. Wow, certainly sounds like a peaceful civilian nuclear program, right, guys? So true. You need to get on Alex Jones and talk about this. Actually, fact check true. Do you think nuclear power should be illegal in Australia? Yeah, I'm in favor of nuclear power. I think Australia should have nuclear power, actually. In April 2021, a sabotage attack struck the Natanz enrichment plant, causing an electrical blackout and damaging centrifuges. And then Max is like, oh my God, they've been saying Iran's about to get nuclear bombs for so long. Dude, it's because Israel keeps on doing sabotage attacks to stop them, which is a good thing. I'm glad that they get stopped from getting an atomic bomb. Yeah, mad clerical fascists certainly shouldn't get city killers. Yeah, fact check. Iran's top nuclear scientists assassinated in Tehran. Wow, guys, and then Max goes, oh, but they've been saying for so long that Iran's about to get a nuclear weapon. Maybe because Israel's been killing their scientists, which is a good thing. They've stopped them. They've actually stopped them from getting it, which is what you need to do. Who would let them get it? They would fucking use it to kill so many people. The Israeli government assassinated him in a road ambush using an autonomous satellite-operated gun. That's crazy. Holy shit. Literally Roadrunner type shit. He was traveling to his weekend villa. Gee, he was in an armored car too. Convoy had 11 bodyguards. How much electricity does Australia get from coal-fired power plants? I think it's still a majority of our electricity at this point. Genetic engineering for soldiers. No, I don't think so. Doesn't Australia have enough outback territory to provide itself and Indonesia with solar and wind power many times over? I mean, true. And we can do a lot more solar power too. But yeah, power lines are expensive, as Dodo makes out. You reckon Mossad and SBU have a competition going for the most fucking cute James Bond shit they can come up with? Yeah, it's crazy, right? The Ukrainians and Israelis keep on doing just like full James Bond shit. Holy shit. The IRGC say that it was artificial intelligence and facial recognition to target them. The automatic gun controlled by satellite then struck him 13 times from a distance of 150 meters. That's crazy if that's true. Holy shit. The gun was so accurate that not a single bullet struck his wife. Wow. Okay, but I don't want Iran to have deterrence, because this is the problem, Max. If Iran has nuclear deterrence, what they will do with that is they will launch wars across the Middle East, knowing they've got the protection of the nuclear umbrella. That's like Russia, for example, invading Ukraine. Russia only invades Ukraine because they believe that they've got the protection of the nuclear umbrella. Nobody will stop them. So I don't want Iran to think that nobody can stop them and they can just launch wars all over the place. If you want Iran to have nuclear deterrence, you're functionally in favor of war, because Iran will use that protection of the nuclear umbrella to then launch wars across the entire Middle East. Holy shit. He was killed by a remotely operated 1-ton automated gun that had been smuggled into Iran piece by piece before being assembled, and which included a bomb so that it could self-destruct. Wow. The gun was put in place by Iranians working for the Mossad at a junction on the main road to Absard on a truck which also had a camera and a bomb so that it could be destroyed after the operation. The gun was controlled by a Mossad team operating from a command center outside Iran. Wow. Wow. That's mental. It's crazy. I don't understand. He literally had an armored car. I don't know how they got him. Yeah, literally the insane Ayatollahs would try to do a nuclear holocaust to summon the Imam, the hidden Imam, the Mahdi. Yeah, honestly, thanks, greatest guy. You're really helping. You're really helping us boost the numbers. Hey Max, I want regime change for Iran. I literally want regime change for Iran. So what are you going to do about it? Do you think the Iranian regime is legitimate? Max, tell us why the Iranian regime should stay in power forever. Tell us why the Ayatollah should stay in power forever when it's very unpopular in Iran, where they have to kill schoolgirls because when they slaughter schoolgirls protesting against them. Tell us why. Viper operation. Wow. The pages produced for Hezbollah had batteries that integrated 3 grams of explosive petin in such a way that it would be extremely difficult to detect. Wow. Wow. Hezbollah did in fact disassemble the pages for inspections and may have even scanned them with x-rays, yet were unable to detect explosive materials. That's crazy. Yeah, literally bad empanada burner accounts here. So cringe. Someone's asking me about a Greek author. I'm going to look that up. Demosthenes Learchopos. Armor doesn't mean against all calibers of weapons. That's a good point. The explosive could not be detected by an airport security check. After the explosions, the Mossad claimed that it had used test dummies in order to carefully calibrate the amount of explosives to limit the injuries to the person holding the pager and not harm people standing next to them. According to the Mossad, injuries were preferable to death, with the injured Hezbollah operatives serving as walking reminders to the organization not to mess with Israel. The Mossad claimed that there is a strong rumor that Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah personally witnessed some of his operatives being hurt by the exploding pages. Wow. Crazy. The Mossad also revealed after the explosion the fake marketing videos they produced to promote the pages. According to the Mossad, the videos attracted interest from customers unaffiliated with Hezbollah. In order to discourage non-Hezbollah customers from buying the pages, these customers were offered unattractive prices, whereas Hezbollah was offered the pages at an attractive price. Amazing. Israel said it sold Hezbollah over 16,000 of the walkie-talkies. That's crazy. Greatest guy. I bet you Ian Miles-Strong has no poultry books on the shelf. I've got the poultry books on my shelf. It's very different, my friend. It's actually crazy, the engineering, hey. The Israeli president denied out of hand any Israeli involvement in the explosions, although Netanyahu basically claimed responsibility. That's funny. Have you read The Stranger by Rudyard Kipling? I will actually. I'll read it. Making a note of that. Actually, I've heard it before. I've heard parts of it. Guys, I might Oh, actually, I have heard that poem before. I've read it on Twitter. Someone posted on Twitter. I'm thinking I might end the stream, guys, because it's nearly midnight in Australia. I'll be back tomorrow. Max Super's been in a really annoying full LaRoucheite mode today. Full anti-Drew LaRoucheite mode. Favorite US president. My personal one is probably LBJ, just because I loved reading the biographies on him. But the best objectively would have been someone like Lincoln or Washington, or actually probably FDR. I know objectively LBJ wasn't one of the better presidents, but what he did with civil rights was amazing, and I just think he was an amazing figure, really interesting individual. What do you think of Bill Clinton bombing Serbia? Yep, based. They had to stop them committing genocide. Had to. Did you hear kidding is gay? Have you heard this? I have heard it before. I'm not sure if it's true, but that's funny. Funny if true. Funny if true. Yeah, listen, guys, I'll be back tomorrow with episode 66 of the Drew Pavley Show. I think I've done 65 in like 68 days. I missed 2 days, unfortunately, because I had to do one of my essays. I'm almost fully done university for this semester, and I'll be able to do a lot more once I'm done. No, listen, Max, Bad Empanada has all these posts endorsing terrorism, violence against kids, all this psycho shit. Given his posting history where he clearly endorses terrorism, mass murder, violence against children, I think those posts, those screenshots were completely true. That's honestly my belief. Can you have a sex work on the stream for episode 69? Nah, dude, I don't think so. Why was Kidding's daughter hanging out with Epstein and Prince Andrew? That's honestly good question. Good question. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to episode 65 of the Drew Pavlu Show. I appreciate it. I'll see you tomorrow for episode 66. And tomorrow we'll follow events as they occur. Today might be the day that America bombs the Fordo nuclear plant. We'll see what happens in the hours ahead. I'll be around to stream. And I'm gonna stream with my mom soon too. Max, it is my personal opinion, my personal belief that Bad Empanada is that type of person. But that's my personal belief, okay? Based on what I've learned about him. But anyway, guys, thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for tuning into the show. I'll see you tomorrow. And remember, stay humble, stay blessed. God bless you all. The fortress of righteousness is rising. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. Thank you, guys.